today. Welcome to our public hearing, or our public meeting, I guess. We have a number of things on the table for today. We have had a request from UEA to make a public comment before we finalize the maps. I know that Commissioner Hilliard wants to make a motion on that, but before we make that motion, if it's okay, we'll. So let's go ahead and hear from, is it Chase?
Yes.
Chase, go ahead.
It says he's muted, so I don't know if he is online with us or not.
One more chance. Chase, you're there?
Is it working now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So is this an opportunity for us to give public comment?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that that was the case. Well, thank you for making that quick accommodation. This is Chase Clyde with the Utah Education Association, and we understood that this evening you were going to be voting on putting forward some maps to the legislature. So we wanted to make one comment. You know, educators across the state have attended many of these meetings, from Sevier County up to Duchesne to here in the Salt Lake Valley, all over. And, you know, they really tried to present a pretty simple message that when you draw districts for the State Board of Education, to try to do everything possible to keep as many LEAs intact. And we found in order to do that, the best way was to utilize the population deviation of plus or minus 5% as much as possible. And looking at the three sort of semi-finalists that you as a commission have put forward, seems like the deviation levels are very low. Also on map, I believe it's orange, and with peace and love to the orange team members.
There are two oranges.
People.
No, that's in the school board.
Oh, I'm sorry, school board. I beg
For
your
the
pardon.
school board, yes, thank you, Commissioner Durham. With peace and love to the orange team, who are fabulous people, for the record. You know, that map is pretty aggressive in chopping up LEAs, in the sense that Tooele is chopped up 3 times. A small number of South San Pete gets chopped up. Summit County's pretty aggressively chopped up. I think Weber's chopped up 3 times. I think Alpine ends up in 4. And that concerns us. And we understand, you know, at one point the map that was drawn by educators was under consideration to be one of the 3 finalists, but was rejected because you as a commission thought the deviation was too high. And we just wanted to state that we think that's still a really good map, and it does stay within the plus or minus 5, which we understand to be what the legislature would be willing to accept. So that's our public comment. Thank you for all you're doing, and I'm here if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank
Anybody
you.
have any questions? I'm not hearing you.
I'll respond for orange. Commissioner Thorne and I, after we started out trying to put all the counties together to the districts, we soon got into some real problems because it just didn't fit. But we spent probably 2 days trying to cut out the division of cities. Our next agenda was to go through and try to keep districts together. We didn't get time to do that. I would anticipate if we approve the orange today, as we've talked about it, that Commissioner Thorne and I will spend the rest of this week going through and seeing what we could do to minimize the district. So I don't know how well we can do that. It's been almost like chasing your tail as you cut one, you pop somebody up here, but I just give that for an explanation.
Thank you. With that, we'll proceed to Cassidy for a discussion around the new maps and some updates.
All on the ones we're gonna approve, but this is just not a suggestion.
So I guess a point of order for council. I know I have a colleague who wants to make a motion on the set of 9 maps. Is there any problem with us doing that before we talk about the new congressional maps?
I don't see any problem in entertaining that order, that motion at this point, prior to the congressional.
But I think it makes some sense to, before we get into the congressional maps and the new congressional maps to take care of things.
I'm prepared to make a motion. I'm gonna need staff to tell me which exactly the 3 that we came to consensus of. I thought pretty well as we met in Harriman. I know Orange was on 3 of them, which gives me some chills because we got to work with Commissioner Thorne and I are not done yet. But can staff give us which one those 3 were for school board, the 3 for Senate and the 3 for House?
Yes, and I have everyone's votes written down if you want to go through those, but just in case you want to clarify, but for Senate, we have orange's map, purple's map, green map. For House, we have orange 1, purple, green, and for school board, we have orange, purple, green.
That would be the motion. And with it, I want to, these public meetings have been very helpful to me. And I think, and I talked with Commissioner Thorne, we have the fellow stand up that doesn't want to be in the same district as his grandmother in Sevier County. And I almost raised my hand and I said, what about the rich people in big houses up on the east bench of Salt Lake? Do you want to be in the same district as them or do you want that divided some way? The thing, but the point I want to make is I am sure we're not done. Even though we may work and try to do our work and get through Friday, I think Representative Wade drove home to me. She looked at her district and she found a glitch that we really ought to correct. Now, I can easily say, oh, she's a legislator and she's gerrymandering, which is the furthest from the truth that I think it would be, but people may say that. But I suspect that as staff goes to write the bill, to try to, so each district has a legal description how they're doing it, they are going to find problems that are going to need to be changed and they do it there. I think that basically is what we've done, but there'll be changes to it. My experience has been after the bill passes the legislature, it's usually the next and maybe the one after that, you come back and amend it again. Because county clerks look at it and they come back and say, oh, you combine it, you got to change that and make those changes. So I'm going to make the motion that we approve these 9 that we've talked about with the understanding, I know Commissioner Thorne and I are going to spend some time between now and Friday fine tuning. And again, especially on the school district one, we want to see if we can keep the division of school districts to a minimum. And we'll be glad to give a sheet and tell you exactly what we've done. And if you have any questions or concerns, do that. But that was my motion. We approve those 9 maps. Okay.
I remember some discussion on Thursday, though, that a couple of maps had to be changed, something to do with Roosevelt.
And Clearfield.
That it was going to be looked at, yeah.
And which maps were those?
The House maps.
Okay, but I mean specifically orange or red or whatever.
Yes, all of them. All of them.
I'm not sure I know.
I think it was all 3 of them.
And the direction was to put Roosevelt
To see if there
with
was
Vernal or away from Vernal.
away from Vernal if possible.
Okay.
And we may find after tinkering that ripples are too big in our pond.
Unless we take in part of Colorado. I think Clearfield, the issue was it had been divided 4 times. We're going to try to reduce the number of divisions in Clearfield.
And the thing I hear in this motion is that while these maps will be done, there's going to be some work this week to kind of refine those as well.
And I would request that we get this out on the internet as quickly as possible, identifying them so that people who have issues with them can get back to us and fine tune like Representative Wade. I appreciate your input on that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote. Is the voice vote sufficient? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And now, I think we can turn to Cassidy and the new maps.
Okay, so I've basically told you what you already need to know. You have the congressional maps. I've included analysis on maps that are newly submitted to us since our last time you got this packet. It is important to note, though, that many of the people who have submitted maps have made some smaller changes and have tried to cut down some deviations and things like that. So as you're discussing, we obviously can pull up the map and answer those questions. Another thing too, this week that's really important is if you are working on your maps and you need more analysis that's more recent, just like have one of the staffers send me a text and I can pull that up really quickly for you and sit in with you and work on that. So don't be afraid to like ask for help. We will get that to you quickly and efficiently. So that's all I have.
Yeah, and then we have Moon Online that's gonna go through the analysis of the maps.
So move.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
It's going well.
All right. It's still a kind of reasonable time of day here, so I'm excited to join you at a time that I'm fully awake. So what I want to do is show you a table of all of the criteria, the nonpartisan criteria that compares the plans that I think are still in contention. So let me share my screen, show you that and talk through it. What I've been doing on past calls is to also show you comparative plots against the whole ensemble. And those can be pulled up if you want to see any particular thing like that, just ask for it. I can pull it up on the spot. I've got everything kind of ready to go. But what I tried to do, but I'm going to need screen sharing permission in order to do it. So what I want to do now is just distill down to a comparison of the plans against each other. So what I've prepared shows you the 4 color team plans here. Let me try to go to my full screen. Okay, great. Hopefully you can see this full screen. It's a lot of numbers, but we'll go through it. So there's the green 1, orange 2-3, orange 3-3, and purple 2-3. A couple hours ago, I got a brand new purple plan over from Cassidy. Thank you, Cassidy, for sending that over. And I got that scored really fast. I'm still waiting for the last column, which I'll explain in a second. So those are the ones that are sort of lavender here were made by the UIRC. And then the batch of pink plans, the 4 plans that you see below that, BDK, DR, SH2, and TB, those were picked out from the public submissions and passed along to me by your staff as being worth comparing to the others. So what this table tries to do all in one place for the congressional plans is to give you that sweep of all the nonpartisan statistics. So let's review. The first batch, cut edges and pulse beat popper, those are both compactness scores. They're 2 slightly different compactness scores that think about compactness in slightly different ways. But you have the numbers here. Remember, on cut edges, less is better. Pulse beat popper, higher is better. And then what I've done is I've put a ranking 1 through 8 because the purple 4-5 is brand new, so I didn't put it in there yet. But I have a ranking 1 through 8 for the plans. And so you see here, for instance, orange 3-3 and BDK are tied for first, second, and that's because one of them has a slightly better cut edges score while the other has a slightly better pulse beat popper score. But those are top of the heap when it comes to compactness, right? And then the next best is SH2, so it's ranked 3rd. That's how to read this table. So far, am I making sense? I can see, but I can't see nodding or weeping.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to assume that that's so far so good. And then, so the least compact of these by both scores is orange 2-3. That's how to read that compact rank. Okay. The next chunk is to do with population deviation. So this is just showing you the most overpopulated and the most underpopulated district and then which district they are. So you can see that all these plans are really tightly balanced. And many of them are balanced to within just a handful of people. SH2 appears to be balanced exactly, every district exactly the same size if these numbers are on the nose, which I think they are. And so all of these have pretty good balance. Even the ones purple 2-3 and DR, which are a couple hundred people off, could be easily hand tuned. So any of these is easily within range of getting tuned to, zero balance. And I recorded the number of VTD splits. This isn't a criterion of yours, it's just here for your information. The VTDs those are the precincts that are reported by the Census Bureau. And so just to give you a sense, like the DR.
I'm sorry, what is a VTD?
It stands for Voting Tabulation District, and it's a precinct. So what happens is every 10 years, when the Census Bureau puts out their new numbers, they work with people in the state and ask them where the precincts are. And they kind of take those and they align them into census geography, and then they're called VTDs. So you might care if you keep these VTDs intact, then the existing precincts nest pretty nicely in your districts. Sometimes in some states, election administrators really like to see you keep these whole, but that's not among your criteria. So it's just here as an extra FYI. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Right, so like, SH2 and DR very rarely split VTDs, and some of them split more. But again, this isn't, kind of, it's not named in your statute as something that you should care about. So it's just here for your information. The next column, we've been talking about this notion of having a similar urban and rural composition across the districts. And so this is two different ways of scoring that. One is comparing the highest to the lowest district density. I talked about that last time. The other is looking at the average density, which is, I see you can't quite read it on this screen, but it's people per square mile. It's the average density in people per square mile. So the most even plans would be the ones where both of these two columns, the numbers are low. Low numbers would be the plans that are the most even. And so of all 8 of the ones that I ranked, SH2 is the most even. The districts are all about the same size. The population density is fairly equal across the districts, down to Orange 3.3, which is the most uneven. Just to give you a quick sense, in Salt Lake City proper, the density is, if I remember right, about 1,800 people per square mile. So if you had a purely urban district, the biggest that number could be is something up around 1,800. And so you can see Orange 3.3 has a fairly urban district. That's what that 906 is telling you. So it ranks 8th in the evenness of its urban and rural split. Does that make sense, everyone? The nice thing here was that max over min statistic and that average density statistic ranked the plans in exactly the same way, from the most even to the least. Questions? Okay, sorry, I'm used to just always asking if people have questions, so forgive me while I ask you that over and over again. All right, next we have the splits. So you have political boundaries in your named criteria. So this is how many counties did you split and into how many pieces? How many towns did you split and into how many pieces? And here again, actually, I'm just gonna see if I can move, oops. Let me just move my view a little bit so that I can see my own numbers better. Okay, so here there's a splitting rank. And of course, because there are 4 numbers here, the number split and how many pieces, the number split and how many pieces, they might or might not rank all the plans the same way, but what you see is actually they rank them in coarsely the same way. And so there's a clear best plan and a second best plan. And then 3 and 4 are a trade-off with each other. 5 and 6 are a trade-off with each other. 7 and 8 are a trade-off with each other. But this helps stratify the plans in terms of how good of a job they do at following political boundaries. All right. And then here's the new thing that I'm pretty excited about. We were able, again, through Cassidy, to get the communities of interest that were collected for Utah through the Esri online tool. And so there were, I think the final number, oh, it says here right on the bottom, 590 of those. So there were 590 parts of Utah drawn by Utahns and submitted to this site where they explained what made it a community. And your commission staff went through and sorted, initially there were more than 590, there were about 700 something. And then commission staff sorted through them and picked out the ones that were and weren't responsive to the description of what a COI is supposed to mean. So 590 of them were ranked as yes, these are valid COIs for consideration. And so actually I put together here a picture. So you can see on the top, these are where people painted COIs. So it's mostly in that kind of Wasatch Range area. But there's a few, you see a little, the heat map picks up a few submissions from other parts of the state. And then here's a zoom in to show you what it looks like. And so what we were able to do is ask the question, if you take a districting plan, how good of a job does it do at preserving these communities of interest? And so we took that very literally. Here's how we did it. We said a COI is respected if at least 90% of its population is all assigned to the same district. And by the way, just so you know, like good data scientists, we experimented with whether that 90% number changed things much if you dialed it down as low as 50 or as high as 100. And they all rank things in essentially the same way. So we went with 90% population inclusion. And this picture should by now be familiar. The gray stuff is our ensemble of 100,000 plans, random plans. Now, of course, our random plans were drawn with no knowledge of community. So this is blind redistricting. This is how good of a job blind plans do at preserving those 590. So you can see that even blind plans tend to get as many as 400 of those to be preserved, and sometimes as many as 440. And then the colored stripes are all the plans that we were evaluating from the commission and the public. Questions about how we did that score? And then I'll go back to the table and show you how they rank. Okay, so you can, yep.
Question.
Mhm.
When you look at community of interest, I don't know whether someone said this is my community of interest for a school district, or this is my community of interest for a congressional district or a house district. Did you combine all those together? Because they may be different. I mean, look at a community of interest for a school district differently than I would look for a community of interest for, say, a congressional seat.
Absolutely. So I didn't read these. We just took the commission staff's labeling of whether they should be considered for congressional redistricting as a yes. They labeled them yes, marginal, and no. And so we took the yeses. So I haven't read the ones from Utah, but I have read the ones from other states because my group collected them in other states. And I can tell you that very rarely do they specify, this is my community of interest for this kind of redistricting. Much more often they just say, here are the people that have shared interests with me. We need a representative who pays attention to, agricultural concerns. So they'll talk about what the policy interests are that they want to communicate to their representative. So I can't speak to the Utah one specifically, but in general, I rarely see COI submissions that specify which level of redistricting they're for. Any other questions about how we did that?
It just occurs to me that that's going to make it very hard to defend communities of interest when we don't even know what they are, but.
Oh, no, you
okay.
can, well, we do know what they are, and you can and you should. I would strongly encourage you to read them. So we have
I mean, what specific ones are?
Can I just add something really quick?
Yeah.
The intent when we created communities of interest wasn't to say, this is my community of interest for school board, but rather have somebody describe their neighborhood or something like that and say, don't split us up in any of the districts. So when we created it, we didn't intend on having them describe certain districts, but rather just describe a specific location that they don't want split up in general.
And I'll just add to that, the kind of challenge of collecting public mapping testimony is that you can have an intent and people don't always follow your intent. So sometimes, you can specify COIs should not be about an incumbent. And then sometimes people will submit them anyway and say, we love our incumbent. And that's why it's so valuable that the commission staff actually sorted them into the ones that were responsive to the language of the statute and the ones that weren't. Now, again, there's no substitute for actually reading these. And we do have all the narratives available and can kind of put those in a nice PDF for you so you can go through and read them. But you're absolutely right that this score is just a score. And it doesn't distinguish between the ones that are really compelling and the ones that are like, please don't separate me from my shopping center, which are maybe a little bit less compelling. So like all metrics, it should be taken with a grain of salt. It can only give you a kind of directional sense of what people wanted to keep together, and not just a number like this can't give you anything deeper than that. Still, I was really pleased that we were able to at least kind of take a look at how your lines fell across people's conceptions of neighborhood. I will add one thing. In other states, we've had a real problem that sometimes people will paint just a giant portion of the state and call it their community. And then of course, districting plans are going to split it up. In Utah, we actually did a little bit of analysis on the COIs, and we found that the vast majority of them are neighborhood sized. That is, very few of them were more than 1/100th of the area of the state, which was a problem I've seen in other states. So Utahns seem to have really taken the mandate as one that was fairly local.
Commissioner Hilliard has a question.
What do you do with conflicts or community of interest where they clearly conflict? For example, one person may say Grand County and Moab belongs to Price. We want to be to Price. We don't want to be at San Juan County. And somebody from San Juan County says we want to, or even from Grand County says we want to be joined with San Juan County. That's a community of interest. Where they clearly conflict, how do you handle those?
Well, the nice thing about a score is it treats those equally. And if you're able to follow one but not the other, you get credit for one and not the other, right? And so because those conflict, you can easily imagine two submissions that are impossible to both respect. And so a plan might respect one, might respect the other, or might respect neither, and it'll be scored accordingly. Does that make sense? So I agree with you that it can easily be possible to have two of these that can't both be respected at the same time. But that's apples to apples across the board. So none of the plans can get all the points. You know, there are 590 possible points to get here. And the plan that gets the most, you can see here, 424 is the high out of 590. So nobody was able to respect all 590, not least because you didn't have them in front of you while you were drawing, right? So you didn't specifically know what the testimony was. Incidentally, if you want to see that, not only can you read the narratives, but Esri collected the COIs as polygons. They let people draw free-form polygons on the map. We converted those into census blocks. So now if you want to see those, we can give them to you as census block overlays to look at in your software while you draw. I know time is short. Would that we had another month or two to do this, but that's available, and I'm happy to pass that along if any of you would find that useful to see the COIs as like what I'm showing here in blue, to see that as an overlay that you can process while you draw. That's available. Okay, so having said all that, if you take a look at how these rank the plans, you can see that among the plans drawn by the commission, purple 2-3 is strong, orange 3-3 is strong, but there are like SH2 has the highest COI rank by a hair, one extra one over the BDK and the purple 2-3. So you should really think of all three of those as being very strong on the COI preservation scale. Okay, and that's what I wanted to say about the nonpartisan criteria. So, can I answer any other questions or back any of this up with either diagrams or other kinds of numbers? Anything else that y'all would like to see?
Thank you very much, Moon.
All right, I'll stay on the call. I'm happy to answer questions as they come up.
Thank you.
So I just want to make sure that everybody caught which were the new maps that were submitted. That's the DR2, the TV public, and the LP public. And then there were some modifications to some of the other maps. I think the DR1 maybe had a minor modification, for example.
When we start assessing the maps, these on this new list with room for notes, the descriptions don't correspond with the labels, all of the labels on the maps. So for example, it just says public submission SH1 and SH2, and they weren't listed as SH1 and SH2. They were listed as compact and
Mixed compact.
mixed compact. And so can we be very careful when we go through our maps to be sure which ones we're
Yes.
talking about?
So for example, on the SH maps.
Right,
The SH compact is the SH1. Correct me, staff, if I'm correct. And the mixed compact is the SH2.
okay.
Is it like that for all of the maps or just?
There are
those two?
several others too. Yeah, there were others. Well, for example, I don't know.
So the BD map is labeled as BDK in our packet.
Oh, yeah, so that's what that means. Where's BD? Okay, so
It's the
it's
second one
BDK.
down, yeah.
Okay, I just realized when I was trying to correlate, I couldn't be sure I was correlating the right one with the right one. And the DR1 and DR2 are labeled that way.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I will note that you have a new map from Karen and I. It's a revision, so it's an update of the purple 2-3 essentially. When we were at the public hearing Thursday night, the mayor of Taylorsville asked for us to see if we could not split Taylorsville. So the way Taylorsville was split previously, there were about 17,000 in one congressional district and about 40,000 in another. So we looked at it and we were able to move things around. So we moved, we put all of Taylorsville together. We had to then move. We ended up splitting Magna and we moved Kearns from one district to the other, I believe.
Now, is that purple CD45?
And that's the purple CD4-5. And we did get some feedback from the mayor's office on the transportation connection that there is between Taylorsville and West Valley City. It's part of that conversation.
So we can spend more time on that when we get to it.
Yes. So I guess I'd like to talk about the voting mechanisms. I want to make sure that we had some confusion the last time we went through this. And so I've spent some time trying to think about how we want to vote on this. And before we have any votes, I'm happy to have any kind of robust conversation we want to have about any individual map. But what I thought so the strategy that I'm going to move forward with is that each person can nominate 2 maps for consideration. Now, the nomination of a map, let's say that there are 4 people that want to nominate the map. That doesn't make the map any more nominated than another map that only got nominated once. After we have the nominations, my assumption is that we will have a list smaller than the list that we have on the page. And we would then have an up or down vote on each one of those maps. So each person would be able to vote. So on each of those maps, we would have the possibility of 7 votes. So that if after that round of voting, we have, let's say we had 3 maps that had 5 votes, and all of the others had fewer than that, then the 3 maps that had 5 votes would raise to the top and would be our submission. And then if, let's say we had one that had 5 votes and the others had 4 or fewer, if there were 2 that had 4 and all of the others had fewer than 4, as long as we met the independent criteria, we could carry the maps forward. If on the other hand, we don't reach any of those, we would then move to another round of voting that only included those maps that didn't make the cuts. Please.
That sounds really feasible. The only problem I have with it is that I had hoped there would be an occasion for the entire commission to discuss each of the maps. And maybe you want to just do that for the ones that are nominated, but I hate to be voting on maps before I have heard what other commissioners think about the eligible maps.
And I am perfectly happy to have that conversation before we even do any of the
Now,
nominations.
maybe I'm the only one who feels that way, but I've been through and made my assessments, but it's quite possible that I missed things, so.
Sure. So with that, we have a suggestion.
Well, I don't want to impose that on everybody if nobody else feels that way.
Mr. Chair, I think
Commissioner
that's a
Hale.
great idea. I would like to just run down these, just if we could have just a basic, you know, summary of each of these maps, that would be nice.
Mhm. So,
And do you want comments on them? I
yeah,
mean, there's things I like and things I don't like about them.
yeah,
So-
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a special, we either have the order that we have them in the packet or we have the order that we have them on the sheet. I'm going to suggest the order on the packet, if that's okay.
Any extra pens?
He doesn't give them back.
All right, so the first map that we have is purple 4-5.
Can I start?
Please.
And only because I'm gonna try and make your lives a little bit easier here. And leave before the rain comes in here to die. Back in August, when I suggested there was an importance of having urban and rural in every district, it was based on the 18 years I had spent in Congress and the 22 years of my predecessor in Congress. It wasn't just a lark, it was some specific knowledge. And I'm not trying to say that I know more than anybody else in the room, but on this issue, I know more than anybody else in the room. And I object to those, especially that we heard in some of the testimony that we're criticizing that without any knowledge of what it was. We've heard a great deal about, you know, Mayor Wilson's letter to us. I haven't heard a great deal about St. George Mayor Randall, who sent a letter to the committee in which she asked and feverishly asked that there be urban and rural in all 4 districts with the reason why. And then in that committee, after which the county commissioner from Washington County said not only did he agree with her, but wanted to stay in CD2 for some specific reasons which may not be applicable to it. I think that mayor's letter is as significant or as important, especially because of the rationale that she used. And what she said is that public lands have a greater impact in southern Utah than they do in northern Utah. And that's a reality of it. There are counties that have over 90% of the county is owned by the federal government. And they have basically, BLM is an absentee landlord that does impact and control their lives in more ways than we know. Of all the counties that have public lands, the county with the least amount of public lands is Salt Lake. So where Garfield has less than 10% of their county in private hands, Salt Lake has less than 10% of their county in public lands. And there is a difference, which is why those who are in rural Utah wanted to have that mix. It was significant and it is important. And it's still important to me. When we were up in Layton, there was a candidate who was run several times for office unsuccessfully, and not Tab, this was another one, who came up with the idea that since 30% of the states are vote for Democrats, they should have one of the congressional districts. It lost some giggles from some of our people that were online too. It's not the way we do things. But it does state a specific issue that if there is a minority party with 30% of the vote, it should tell them that 3/4 of the state is not agreeing with them and they should probably change a method somewhere. But instead, there are groups out there that want this commission to do it for them, which means you cannot gerrymander a congressional race. I mean, it's a gubernatorial race, which may be one of the reasons why the Democrats have not elected a governor since 1980. And you cannot gerrymander a Senate race, which is why the Democrats haven't elected a senator since 1970. You can gerrymander a congressional race. And there are indeed our special interest groups that are out there and want that to happen. We have been wise, Judge Thorne, I think you were the ones that pushed this significantly. Well, everybody did, of not being able to look at partisan data. But with that, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at some of these maps and say what will happen. So if I'm looking at the purple map right now, I can guarantee you there'll be 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat elected each in the next 5 cycles. That's simply the way the map is drawn. There were people at the last hearing that said that the green map would guarantee 4 Republicans, wish it were. But when I put my commission hat on, I did not like what had happened to San Pete and Davis County before 10 years earlier. So I insisted that we keep those as whole as was humanly possible. When I put my partisan map on, I'm saying, look, I just took Davis and San Pete out of the 2nd district and replaced it with West Valley City and the rest of Salt Lake. I have made that significantly more democratic than the present district is. And as a partisan, that bothers me in the back of my mind. As a commissioner, it doesn't. So what I'm telling you is I am frustrated with this process. I'm frustrated with what I've been hearing. I'm frustrated with where we're going because this commission is designed not to work. When I was in West Valley City, I told all of you I respected the amount of time and integrity you put into this process, and I meant that sincerely. I especially appreciate the staff and the time and effort that they have put into this process. I respect that. I respect each of you as an individual, but I'm sorry, as a group, we suck. And part of that is simply the way this has been organized. This is a metro-centric group. When 5 of the 7 are from the Wasatch Front, 3 of the 5, the majority of the 5 are actually from Salt Lake County. We see things in a different way. And even though we took testimony from other people, we still see things in a different way. And for me, it's frustrating. And for me, I can't take this anymore. So I'll make it easier for you. I'm going to resign now. And I'm going to let you vote for the congressional districts that you want to. The green one, I still think is the correct one because it has urban and rural in the right way. And I agree, and it does have the core, which is a legal requirement. Not liking it is not a legal requirement. And if we were going to be sued, I'm sorry, Matt, we're not going to be sued, let's face it. But if we were going to be sued for not doing the core, the language says you have to do it as much as practical. Well, you see a map that is practical. So I'm frustrated, I'm tired, I'm going to go before the rains hit because it's a long way. That's why I wear the shorts, because when I die, I want to die comfortably. And I wish you all well. I wish you the best. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do wish you the best in what's going forward here. But I can no longer do this. And if you want to change the original vote that you recorded on the other 3, because I do think this group has put in 9 maps that are, well, no, I don't like any of the 9 maps either, but 3 of them I think are really good. Probably, especially school board, if only by serendipity, we got the maps that are good. But I actually didn't say anything. If you want to change that to an abstain, because I didn't want to taint anything else. But I think this commission has shown that it can do something, but what we're about to do now will not result in anything that I think is worthwhile. And I'm happy, I'm tired. So thank you for your time and commitment, but I don't know if you need me to officially resign somewhere by hanging myself in the hallway.
I would prefer you not do that.
It would present the same net effect. But I just want you to know that the issues that I brought at the beginning, back in August, are issues that are serious. And whether you want to accept them or not, I don't care. They still are right. And it's the right thing to do. And if we have overly urban districts in here, completely urban districts, we harm the state of Utah, we harm our delegation. And I'm sorry, there is historical data for that, historical evidence of that. So with that, I beg your pardon. I'm going to head home. And it's been fun. Well, actually, it hasn't been, but I spent a hell of a lot of time down here, and now I know how to get here from 215 easily. And many of you, I have to thank you, Judge Thorne. Many of you are people I have not met before this experience, like Judge Thorne here. That's my failing. I feel bad about that because this commission, as much as my frustration with the system and the way it has been established, has nothing to do with your integrity and abilities. You do a great job. Thank you. I'm sorry that I was locked in the way I was going to ask. This was not supposed to be.
Trying to make it as dramatic as possible.
No, it's only because, oh, you guys are messy.
Well, we dropped some. Thank you.
Commissioner.
I wonder if we could hear from legal counsel about the next steps with respect to the composition of the commission and the impact of a retirement at this stage and the status of the prior roads.
I think that would be a very good counsel.
That's not the memo he sent me, but
Well, everything's unprecedented at this point. This is our first time going through this. The statute does not contemplate this type of situation. Well, let me rephrase that. The statute doesn't specifically address what happens if a commissioner resigns. But the statute does obviously outline all the other aspects that we've discussed from the very outset as to the process through which the maps should be selected and forwarded on. And my initial thought, having about 30 seconds to contemplate this at this point.
That's what we paid big money
Well,
for.
and I don't want to misstate anything, and I will
Sure.
certainly make a lot of thoughts on it tonight and tomorrow. If something changes from this initial thought, I will obviously let you know immediately. But it seems to me that insofar as the commission can still submit maps that still comply with all the statutory requirements and obligations of voting measures, then it seems to me that that would still be an appropriate manner going forward. Now, once again, it's silent on that issue. That's just my initial thought.
Particularly with respect to the 9 maps, which the full commission just took a vote on. Do you think that vote stands so that each of those maps has the requisite 5 commissioner support?
Well, and maybe there's two separate issues. What I heard Rob say before he left is that he was in favor of the 3 school board maps that had been identified as the top 3. It was a little unclear to me as to what his comments were with respect to the state and Senate. Seems like he suggested that that could be considered an abstention on his part with respect to those. I don't know if anyone.
I believe he explicitly said that he did not say anything during the vote, neither an aye or a nay.
Right.
And so that we could consider that as an abstention on his part. That's what I understood.
Okay, but was that an abstention on the motion to submit to the legislature or an abstention on individual maps? Because the whole commission was present when the initial 5 votes were obtained on each of the 9 maps. And so.
I would assume the latter, but I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and it may be that we just talked to Rob this week, Commissioner Bishop, to see if he wants to add any clarity as we identify the maps that the rest of the commission wants to set forward, to see if he would prefer to say, hey, I want that viewed as an abstention or no longer involvement since he's left. But because I think we postponed an official vote to that, I think having an abstention when he's already resigned probably doesn't seem appropriate to me. Just
that's
because,
what I'm concerned about,
yes,
because there were votes taken when the commission was whole. And I don't know whether those can be changed after they've been counted. So maybe clarity from him would help, but we would still have to decide whether those votes were. What I'm worried about, obviously, is that some of the 9 that we approved today may not have 5 votes for them. And so we'd have to go back and open up.
Well, we did, it had at least 6 this evening. But Rob
No,
didn't,
which had at least 6.
the 9 that we
I
did because we just adopted it by voice vote.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the vote to submit the 9. I'm talking about the votes on the 9. Because each map has to have at least 5. And I thought there were some maps that only had 5.
I thought that the vote we just took put at least 6 votes in favor of each of those 9.
That was the intent of my motion.
That was the intent of the motion? Okay, that's.
so I feel comfortable from a legal standpoint that the vote here, that those 9 are appropriate to be sent forward in compliance with the statute. I think where it gets a little more nuanced is how to account for Commissioner Bishop, whether we'll say he's abstained or not. And I think that may just be a conversation I could have with him later this week or whoever to say, hey, how do you want to?
Probably you and the chair on the phone with him.
Yeah, that seems to make sense, just to get his take as to how he feels about those 9.
We don't want to misrepresent his position.
Exactly.
I suspect it's okay to go forward with a unanimous statement, but I would like to clarify that with him.
Certainly.
Commissioner,
From my position, we were talking about this, I don't support all 9 of them. I voted all 9 in a group because I think it presents the legislature some well thought out plans from which they can choose and modify or adopt in whole as they want. So I'm showing as a yes for all 9 because I think that's the process. And I don't want to go back and pick and say, well, this one I don't like and this one I don't like, but I think as a group, I think that's our obligation as a commission, and that's what I support.
Well,
Commissioner Durham?
that's perfectly appropriate, but I think every commissioner has their own methodology. I mean, I voted on individual maps, and then I voted today for all the maps that got the prerequisite number of votes. So I was bound by the majority in some cases where I wouldn't necessarily have been one of the 5, but that's fine.
any other discussion on the issue at hand?
So I'm seeing this as a package deal, the 9 maps versus individual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm fine with the package deal if that's what we're saying here.
And that would be completely appropriate, that it would have then the 6 votes. And that obviously exceeds the minimum requirement for that. And it would be, I think, designated that each of those votes or each of the maps submitted had that unanimous 6 vote, or at least with those remaining. And we'll just need to clarify Commissioner Bishop's position on that as to how he would want his voice or his prior vote, or whether he can even, add to what happens on Friday with the final vote. So we'll work through those things, but I think to the point of making sure that we just represent what he wants to be represented at this point.
Commissioner Hale and then Commissioner Durham.
Thank you. As I understood on the other nights, we were talking about this as well. I understood that if we had any specific issues with any of those 9 that we had voted on, that we could go speak with the orange team or the green team to see if they could make any tweaks or, look at the areas of concern for us so that we could have confidence in all of those maps going forward after we had discussion with the map makers of those individual maps.
For example, as Commissioner Hilliard noted, that they wanted to try and work on the school district split still.
Right.
And I made some agreement, I can't remember what it was, but we'll So I had a question of process, and I'm not a Robert's Rules person, but does the commission have to formally accept the resignation before it's effective?
I do not know.
Does it matter? He's gone.
I don't want to adjourn the meeting.
I agree. Yeah.
I'll look into that. Commissioner Durham, I'm not aware.
Okay.
I don't have an answer. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I would make a motion if we do need to accept it formally. Well, no, I'll save the motion until you look.
Okay.
I just don't want to leave something hanging.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so with that, I think we're good with council at the moment.
Okay.
There may be other questions that come up for council. I think where we were is we were about to start a process of discussing individual maps for people to talk about things they liked and didn't like. Commissioner.
And I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on all the maps. I think if we come upon a map and nobody says they have any interest in this map whatsoever, I think it's okay to move on.
So the first map in our pile is the the purple 4-5. I made a few statements earlier about that map. Mr. Hale, is there anything else that you want to say?
No, just for us to publicly say that we did have a discussion here today with representatives of
The mayor's office.
of the Salt Lake County Mayor's Office, who came to express their concerns about Taylorsville and talked to us about transportation issues and things. And so we made those changes.
But the lines were ours.
The lines were ours, yes, definitely. And as Chair Facer shared with you, we made some changes to the map from what you've seen from 4.3. And then I think we've talked about, and that was really the only change that we made. So the map still stands.
I guess the other thing, you'll note that there are two odd jutting portions on the map. Those are bolted, and so down into Grand County, there's that little piece, and then into Juab County. Those are both to try and keep tribal lands whole. It was part of the feedback that we heard anyway from our meeting down in Mexican water.
Let me give my concerns about CD45. First of all, I'm concerned any map that takes southern Utah and makes it a huge, great big. I'm going to have a hard time supporting any of those. Obviously, if there's different proposals, I can, I guess, hold my nose and vote. But the other concern I have about it, I looked it over. I heard from Salt Lake County, they wanted a district within Salt Lake County. And this makes the D2 part of Davis and part of Summit County, and D4 makes it part of Utah County. So there is no county or district solely within Salt Lake County. And so if a person doesn't want to be joined with Sevier, why would he want to be joined with Davis? So I think I'm looking for really a district that is wholly within Salt Lake County, meaning what I heard pretty clear that they wanted a district in Salt Lake County. So that's the two concerns I have about this. Okay, Commissioner Durham.
Yeah, I read the comments differently on that. What I heard was that Salt Lake County did not want to be split into three or four different districts. And it does seem to me that Salt Lake residents have a lot more in common with Davis County residents than they do with people in Sevier County. So that, I mean, those are valid observations, but the way you feel about it might be different.
Any other questions or comments on purple map? Check next to that so I can try and keep track of which ones we will have covered. Next is the green congressional.
I suspect there's very little to be said on green congressional that hasn't been said.
I was going to say, at least from our two map drawers, anyway.
And from the comments we heard as well on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the two map drawers who are left is that both of us have already expressed our views that that is not a good map. We don't support it. We wish we hadn't drawn it, and we would have withdrawn it if we could. Is that, I spoke for myself. I'll let Jeff speak for himself.
You said exactly. So I also was clear the other day.
You had at least a half dozen points, I think, that
There were
you had
6,
concern.
yeah.
Okay.
I get them out and read them again.
Well, I would just add, I could support this one because of what it does in southern Utah. That's an important thing for me as a rural member of this group. And also, I think, as Rob explained, it changed the current status where it was actually Davis County that went down to St. George. And this makes it part of Salt Lake County, leaving Davis County more in a hole. And again, it divides Salt Lake County into 3 areas, and that's a concern. But it divides Davis into 2 and Utah into 2, and they're both smaller than Salt Lake. So again, I prefer one that has a Salt Lake 1 area within the 817,000.
904? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the Orange Congressional 2.3. That's listed as Orange CD2 on your list.
The green congressional, which one is that?
That is green CD1.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Orange Congressional 2.3.
Yes,
And right
Also
behind
known
it
as-
is 3.3.
yes.
So
So,
what's the difference between those?
well, there's a dramatic difference between them, although I'll let the Orange team speak to that.
Right.
This is, I'll explain it briefly again. I took Weber County and made it a base. I took the areas outside and I took the east part of the state to keep the Native Americans together and the oil and gas, those areas that are all tied in, and I explained the US use ties. I've then taken Davis County and made it all whole, didn't divide Davis County. And again, I should indicate, to get the numbers, I had to go into part of Salt Lake County, and I tried to take part that involved the ski industry of Alta and those areas that open up from the canyons into the ski areas because of their close relationship. Commissioner Hale told me that one of the maps, that one of the area cut was not really fair, and I said, I can correct that. If there's one little block that she said should have been in another area, we can correct that one. But it's divided in 3 ways, but it's really, I think all 3 of those areas, probably not in 1, but in 2 and in 4, there's enough of Salt Lake County. I think they can control who's elected in that area. But then again, the key to me was having the 3 areas going south. I couldn't put St. George in that area because I had more of Salt Lake County. That's really the rationale. I had to count Utah County, and I tried to divide it in half, and I didn't get that completely, but I think that part with St. George gives a combination of rural, urban, in all of these districts. Urban would be probably 75% of the district, rural 25. So when somebody says they don't want somebody in Iron County controlling the vote, it'd be pretty hard just on the numbers.
So could I ask a question, Commissioner Hilliard? Of the 2, Orange 2.3 and Orange 3.3, which one do you, I guess I'm curious what's your favorite?
Well, I don't like 3.3 because of what it does to Southern Utah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So 2.3 is the one you feel strongest about, and what about you, Commissioner Thorne?
I think Orange 3 reflects 2 urban districts
Okay.
and then divides the rest of the state up.
Okay, and do you speak in favor of that, or just neutral on
I mean, I like that better than Mr. Hilliard's map, but there are other maps I actually like better than
Than
the
either.
orange.
that? Okay, all right, thank you very much.
I couldn't see in the figure 3.33 how much is Salt Lake County completely in one district?
No,
Okay.
I think it may even be in 3.
It can, yeah,
I think there's a small number. I think the 3rd district is like 1,000 people.
okay.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah, one has 1377, one of the 3.
yeah, one from just 1,377.
But that was not, you have to try and keep those numbers down very small.
Yeah.
Deviations.
So anything else that you want to say about Orange 3.3? Okay. So then let's move on to public submissions. So this is one of the new submissions that we received. I think this one was presented to us on,
One of those nights.
yeah, either a
This
Thursday or
is the
Saturday.
TV.
Yeah.
Yes, so this one was, you had the analysis on in Harriman, and we looked at the map online, but you didn't have a physical copy.
Okay. This was the one that we heard about in Harriman.
Which one is that?
The TB.
And this is the one that has Salt Lake County split 4 ways.
Yes.
Yes, and also Mill Creek split 4 ways as a city, and well, I mean, we heard from Mill Creek that they have in the past been split very generously, and they were hoping for more unity, and so I've been watching on the maps for that, and this one has them in four different districts, which for a not huge city is a lot. And then there's the Salt Lake County in 4 districts as well.
And I will note that this one has a lot of city splits.
Yeah, a lot.
Have that page after. Anything else anybody would like to say about the TV map? The next one, LP map. Which is another new map. So this is fairly low deviations,
Yeah.
not as low as some of them. It has, to some extent, the rural urban split, but District 2 doesn't have very much urban or very much rural population into it.
Yeah, and Salt Lake is split
three
three
ways.
ways.
Again, my concern on LP is what it does to the north and the south and the west, all in one huge district. And I just a kind of point, I don't know if we want to Daggett in a different district from Vernal. Or
From Uinta.
Yeah.
All I have.
Okay. Any other comments? And on city splits, not as many as the previous map, but still a fair number.
Thank you.
And so now on to DR2.
Oh, I'm sorry. We are 2 minutes. I'm sorry, where's DR2? Is that with our old file?
No, it should be with your new stat. In mine, it's right after
No,
the LP.
no, it's not in mine. Oh, it's right after LP?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ah, got it.
Okay,
All right, so DR2,
yes.
thank you.
So this is another one of the new maps.
Higher deviations. Very few county or city splits. But quite high. Well, they're not high in terms of the percentages for deviations. They just look high compared to.
The others.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
So it does only split Salt Lake into two, although it just the eye test to me
I know, but-
feels really,
It snakes around.
Yeah.
It's almost like classic German.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It snakes around. Does anybody know where White City is? I keep seeing
It
White
is.
City. on the
It's
map.
inside Sandy.
yes.
Unincorporated.
So it's an
area inside Sandy.
unincorporated area.
Okay,
They
thank you.
didn't want to be part of Sandy.
They have their
Okay.
own water district and so forth.
Okay, thank
It
you.
goes back 30, 40 years, probably 40 or
Probably more
50
than that,
years.
yeah.
I remember when I was an undergraduate, we watched a film about White City, so that tells you it goes back a while. Any other comments on DR2?
That isn't quite as bad as southern Utah, but I still don't like the way there ought to be other
Southern Utah.
evidence in southern Utah.
Okay. The next map is the BDK, which on your list is the BD.
Have to go back to the other map to get.
Yes, you may well have comments on this one.
In the new package then.
Yes, it's in the new package,
No, I know, but.
but there, you may
but
have comments from when you reviewed it before.
Well, and it doesn't have the
Oh, the
city and
deviation.
county splits, does it?
I think you're right.
Like that, like this, Rich County.
Yeah, it splits Rich and it splits Utah County into 3 with one bunch of 1,000 people who are just all off by themselves.
So the deviation goes from -21 to a +18 in districts 1 and 2. District 3 is 0 and district 4 is 3.
Yeah, and there was that weird thing in Salt Lake City that must be a census block or something that's all, you got 199,000 people in District 3
Oh, and then
and
there are
4
four?
people in
Yeah.
District 2.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of those things like,
And maybe
I
American
assume you could
Fork,
fix
too.
the 30 in
I
American
think
Fork.
I assume you could too. Yeah. What do you think about the Rich County split? Anybody?
Well, I mean, when you have a county that small, it feels really strange to split
Surrounded
it.
by mountains in Wyoming. The only choice you have is to get there. You have to go through Wyoming and get up there, or go all the way through Oregon, Beaver.
So it's not irrational.
What is the
I
boundary?
mean, in some ways, you're right.
It probably counts the little town of Woodruff. I haven't seen that.
So
City
can
splits.
we pull BDK up so we can see that split in Rich County?
I would suspect that it could be corrected. I don't think there's that many people there.
There's, how many people are there? There are about 2,500.
In Rich County?
That's what it says.
Well, that's Whole Rich County, but that's only a little part of Rich County.
So in the part of Rich County, in that blue part of Rich County, there are 349 people.
Okay.
And the other
So
half
to keep
has,
Rich County whole, you have to switch about 349 people.
Probably Woodruff.
Could you zoom in?
Gary Cornelius.
Yeah. Could you zoom in just a touch? I think that is, yeah, probably Woodruff. Yep. You're right, yeah. Yes. Feels very.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's for numbers.
Yes. BDK, right? Which on our list is BD, yes. Right, any other discussion about that now? Move to the MR.
not finding the MR stats.
Oh, so the deviation,
The deviations of,
you see,
oh, no, I don't have those. What are
oh,
those?
the deviation in District 1 is 328 over,
Oh, yeah, no, I do have those. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
but we don't have the splits.
The
The
counties.
splits, yeah,
Probably in your old packet.
I know, but I can't find them. Which one? Oh, wait a minute.
The close-up map,
Yeah,
Salt Lake County is divided into two.
I think in your new packets, the analysis is only included on ones that hadn't seen before.
right,
Yeah,
but,
sorry, wasn't able to.
But we haven't
we
found it
can't
in
found
the,
them. We can't find them.
Was Emma?
did you find it?
Oh, I found it. I found it. So it splits Carbon once, and it splits Salt Lake once, it splits Draper 3 times. And Santaquin, Taylorsville, oh, there's the Taylorsville split again. And West Jordan and West Valley once. Although the West Jordan one looks like easy to fix, so does the West Valley one. Yeah, so, and Taylorsville would be easy to fix too, so that's not a big problem. So,
What's the population of Salt Lake County and District 2? Is that all Salt Lake County?
704.
no, in MR,
704,000, right?
817.
So District 2, if you look up here, District 2 is completely contained in Salt Lake County, so there's
and it's
100.
817,678.
Oh, I'm
And then
looking at the
District
wrong number,
4
sorry.
has 367,000.
There it is.
So there's your
560.
entirely Salt Lake district.
Yeah.
So where's
You know, like
District
it does.
4? Now you don't, but that's weird. Wait a minute, are we looking at MR Congressional?
Yes.
Because it says here that half of Salt Lake is in District 4. But that's, oh, I see, it goes out through Tooele. So 367
It's the excess
Salt
population
Lakers
from
are all the way down to Medicine Waters.
But I don't think Medicine Waters will control the voting.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right about that.
Probably be pretty stubborn.
Depends on if you're counting willpower.
Moon also offered, if you guys want to see any more of the analysis up on your screen, while you're doing this, she can put that up at any time.
Oh,
Just
okay.
wanted me to remind you.
Thank you. Moving on to the CV. That was one of those that we had received before.
Always the top of our list. Okay. So now we need to find that one.
This split Salt Lake County into two and Utah County into two. Those are the only county splits.
Cannot find the stats. How many,
So,
just those two counties?
Yeah.
Thank you.
about 10 cities are split.
Is the blue areas in District 3, is that reservation?
Oh, I think those are reservations, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, it's federal land. It's not just reservations. It's also federal land.
All combination.
Any other discussion?
Just to note that when we were in Monticello, there was discussion about not going up to Grand. To heading west instead, and that's what this map does that.
Up to Grand.
Oh, to Grand.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
This is Vernal with Grand, and they don't like Vernal.
That would be the next state in.
And the deviations were a little bit larger. Again, it is Commissioner Durham said, yeah, large is a relative term on the congressional maps.
And I'm sure that we could reduce that.
Yeah.
Worked on it.
So moving on to the SF.
And this, let's see, that's it. There it is. Yeah, it's on there.
I'm always surprised when I look at the first district of my north area, why some can conclude all of Morgan County with it and others not, and they still accounts as the same. I mean, it would appear to me that there ought to be a map that's the same, that has the same number, but
It really highlights how we can draw so many different maps, because it just depends on how far into Davis County
you know, this is
or Weber County you go.
500 deviation.
Glad you're not drawing California
Oh,
or
goodness,
Texas.
if they kept.
Or Alaska. Well, again, I'm concerned there's not a solid Salt Lake County, within Salt Lake County, a district. And
There was that one. Was there not?
Well, no, but he's saying in this specific map.
Oh, in this one,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
At least, I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but I think that's what you were saying.
Okay, all right, sorry.
I'd feel better if the Salt Lake County didn't have two, or the Summit County and went more into the other three, and then three more into four. That's, I don't like four on that. Okay, it's way too big.
Karen, we just want to make sure you weren't making a statement.
No statement at all, just an emergency call.
Yeah, if she's gonna take a break, I'm gonna take a break.
So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and resume our meeting. So as we left off, we were getting ready to talk about the SF public map, I believe. And I know.
Even I don't like this one in southern Utah.
Yeah, converting one person.
Well, it's particularly bad. I mean, what you got from Vernal to St. George
And over.
Yeah, they don't go to the
No, just go to,
They only go to eastern Utah.
Keeps Windover in the urban corridor.
Okay, they do have relatively comparative high deviation. Any other comments? Okay, let's go on to JE.
this has the same problem as Southern Utah.
This one does go to West Window.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Let's go to the SH1. And I believe this is a slight revision. Is that correct?
As far as I know, and Stuart, I think, is in the Zoom, so he can correct me, is his compact plan did not change, but his mixed compact, which is SH2, did
Okay.
change.
So SH1 is not changed substantively.
Okay, SH1, where are we?
So SH1 has deviations of 0.
This is the SH1
Yes.
compact.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like people that have to deal with people from Francis.
Yeah.
How horrible.
3 counties that are split and 4 cities, it looks like.
So SH1 is that the mixed? Or is that
No,
the compact?
No, that's the
It's the
compact.
compact.
I don't see which one it is. SH.
It says PSSH1.
Okay.
It is mixed compact, but it's the compact plan.
No,
No,
no, the mixed compact is the next one.
The SH2.
Okay.
Did one end up in our packet twice?
No.
no.
Oh, actually,
Did it get printed twice?
oh, yes, SH1 appears to have been printed twice.
I think
Oh, yeah, it does.
somebody's lobby.
Okay, so we're still on 1, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have nothing more to say except I don't like it very much. I realize it's not very helpful.
Okay. SH2.
Let's Salt
This is
Lake.
the mixed compact.
Primarily, District 762 out of 8 something.
I actually like
SH mixed or SH2.
No, that's not right. SH2 has 436,000 in one, 671,000 in, okay. It has 671,000 in District 2, 76,000 District 3, and 436,000 in District 4.
I think this one has a change to that though.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I think it only has Salt Lake SH2 district.
I think he went back and changed.
Yeah,
it
he went
after
back
the
and
meeting.
changed it, and I don't know that we have the
We
updated
didn't get new stats on it though.
stats on this.
One?
On the SH2,
Yeah, I don't think she had time to do analysis on all of them.
Well, you can,
This could be something that,
so, but if you can see up on the screen, Salt Lake County is only split twice. East side split goes out to the basin.
right,
The west side split,
goes out to Nevada
yeah, it goes to Nevada and then
and
down.
then down to the border, Arizona.
Okay,
I could support this one better because of what it's done to southern Utah. But I still think that Salt Lake City needs to have their own district. I think there needs to be 817,000, whatever it is, in one of the Salt Lake districts.
Did we tell how many, what are the numbers between District 4 and District 2
No, we
in
don't
Salt
have-
Lake County?
We don't have the stats on that.
I can look that up really quick if you just. So in the District 2 portion, there is 671,000.
In District 4,
And in the District 4 portion,
By almost equal.
there is 513,200.
Did this split Cedar City? Excuse me, St. George?
I think it splits at Washington, but I'm not certain.
you can't tell on this.
Yeah.
Does it split St. George?
Oh, yeah, can you change the color?
Yes.
Zoom in on St.
Yeah,
George
yeah,
and
go ahead.
and Cedar.
George, maybe.
Could you maybe just get the city splits
There's
for
not,
us?
but St. George is split.
Oh, that's crazy.
Well, actually, it
Actually,
looks
it
like,
might not be.
It might not-
Really?
it looks
yeah.
like it's Washington and St. George that are
So
split.
could you put Washington in there? Yeah.
Washington is okay.
Yeah, that's.
And how about St. George?
Like it just goes between the two
That little
cities.
area out by the airport.
I don't know, Moon, I don't know if you ran the analysis on this updated map at all.
I'm sorry, which one again?
This is the SH2, the,
Yeah, SH2 I have on my list. Hang on.
I think it was number 1 or number 2 on most of our categories.
Yeah, it had very high ranks. So let me share my screen again.
this is the version that Cassidy sent you today, right?
No, this is the SH2. I didn't know there was more than one SH2. So this is the last version. Oops. This is the last version that I had. And I can run it again for the adjustments, but already with the vintage from a few days ago, it ranked first, second, or third in each category.
I've forgotten already. Oh, here's the deviations. Oh, that's there.
And 0 deviations.
Yeah.
And it looks like, I just got word from Stuart, this is an alternative plan that kept Salt Lake County whole that would address the concerns, but we still have that old SH2 that split Salt Lake County 3 ways too.
But it doesn't have a one district within Salt Lake County.
I don't believe so. I'll double check on
I
that for
don't
you.
think it does. It looks like it.
You can see that because look at its urban rural rank. It's the most even urban rural. So that means all of its districts pick up none of its districts is completely urban. I can show you a picture of it too, but I'm sure you have that available.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was not one whole Salt Lake district in the old plan either.
Sorry, Joey, what?
There was not one whole Salt Lake district in the old plan either. You should have the old one in your packet. That's the SH2 in your old packet, and then the SH2 in the new packet is this new map. And I can put them both up on the screen if that will
Except
help.
it's SH Public Congressional and SH Mixed Compact Congressional.
Yes.
Or just listed as SH2. Split Washington County is a new split. Minimize the splitting of Salt Lake. Anything else on the SH2?
I don't pay attention.
Our standards, heavy goals.
All right, the EW public map.
Split along. DW, how much of Salt Lake is in D, how much in D4?
Sorry, what was that?
In EW, Public Congressional, how much is the population of D2 in Salt Lake County and how much in D4?
704,000 D2, 480,000.
I can't do where you find it.
704,000 in D2 and 480,000, almost 481,000 in D4.
Davis Salt Lake Summit in Utah were all split in that. I don't know, split north. Deviations on this, no, pretty good.
Not showing a split in Summit
Yeah,
for
I
this
don't
one.
see that.
Oh.
It's on here on our.
I have a note, 4 counties are split. EW.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to find the Summit County split. I can't see it.
Yeah, it shows it on our stats, but
It's probably split along the road where you go into the Chairman Ranch area. That's right, yes.
Summit Park area.
Can we bring that up?
Yeah, he just did.
Drop Summit County on there.
I was in County Line Road.
What did it say there was any population in that? In that?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, 14,000.
Yeah.
But I can't see where it is.
Is it one of those things where her map is
What
different?
about north into Hannaford, excuse me, yeah, Hannaford.
Or not, not?
All along the county line.
Yeah, I'll,
As you go up Echo Canyon. Okay,
Yeah, so that's all within Summit. So
keep going north on that map, up north. It did put Hannaford in.
I'll double check with Cassie on that one. And Moon, do you have the EW map?
No, I don't have that one.
This one splits Taylorsville too.
DW does.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, my mistake. Let's look at the wrong one.
Oh, you know what? This is an updated submission, looks like.
Oh, dear.
For
Okay.
the
Oh, this
EW.
EW. Oh, but we don't have stats on it except the,
Yeah, we don't have stats on it. So before, it did go into Summit County just a little bit. They're on the east side or the west side of the county. But in this version, it
it
doesn't.
doesn't, yeah.
Any other comments?
It seems to make the one urban district in Utah County
Yes,
instead of in Salt Lake.
yeah, with a little bit in Salt Lake. So it catches the faster growing part of Salt Lake County together with the faster part of Utah County. Okay, so MA.
Slide up there. Not like all one district there, number 4.
That goes into Davis, isn't it? It does go into Davis.
Put it up on the screen, Joe.
Maps. Or is it new?
I didn't. No.
District 4 goes, what, into Bountiful? Or is that North Salt Lake?
Wasn't too much that way.
I think the MA map maybe not one that was in our packet.
You know, you look at all the maps I've done, you could easily move Davis County into yellow, move the yellow Summit County into green and green into Salt Lake City.
Just wave your magic wand.
Leave it at the lines, you could still have two Salt Lake. Salt Lake.
Be worth a try.
I can assure you, we're not the last ones to do this.
We don't have stats on that one, right?
That's correct.
Oh, shoot. So I have no idea what the splits are.
Did you see that Davis is split, Salt Lake is split, Utah is split?
Spread the pain.
Is this one? Yeah.
That still puts Daggett away from.
Can you go down into Utah County real quick? I was just wanting to see where the division was there between the District 2 and District 1. So it looks like they've essentially carved out the mountains. But they have all of Orem and Provo in District 1.
Cassidy is about 5 minutes out to clear up any analysis questions you guys have.
On the MA?
Yes. The
Okay.
MA and the EW.
Okay. We'll get that shortly. We can come back to those. Let's go ahead and move on to DR1.
Do we have, is this revised or do we have the stats that are
I'm trying to look.
on the plan?
DR1,
Is he the one who presented to us in West Valley?
Yes.
yes,
Either one he had, but
yes. He was at both West Valley and yes.
City boundaries, that looks horrible. But I'm sure he
Yeah.
followed some lines that were created out by him.
So this says it's got high deviation. Salt Lake County is split into three.
Southern Utah, fine, this can be done.
You think that's as good as it could get?
I think so. Back to the old rule, one senator per county. Oh, this is congressional. This is congressional. I can't do that.
Only you can turn back time. Cassidy will be down shortly with some updates on EW and MR. Are there any that, as you look over your notes, that you want to ask some more questions about? Because I believe that takes us through all of them.
I believe so. Did we do LP public? Yes.
Can someone tell us on DR1?
I don't remember. I don't have any notes on it. What did we decide, Karen?
So DR1, do you hear that, Joey?
Daggett's not with
Salt Lake
Basin,
into
with the Basin.
District 2.
How much of Salt Lake County is in
Salt County's
District 2?
split 3 ways.
We did do.
Oh, okay.
LP, here it is.
104,000.
I didn't even take notes. I did.
We
Okay.
went to Harriman and Riverton and
Yeah, looks like you have Harriman, Riverton, and Draper. Oh, maybe not, no, not Riverton, just Harriman and Draper.
Ripper.
Give us until Cassidy has that data back before we
Yes, she should be there
move
anyway.
forward with any. Well, EW and MR.
The MA. We have MR stuff. Right.
Okay, I can't recall.
Yeah, MA. MR. We do have.
That's right. MA. The
Well,
one.
this was a pain, but it was very helpful to me. Thank you. Because I couldn't, I just can't remember back.
right, it's then put in email.
That's a good, Matt. Is there any need to keep the notes that we've been taking?
Yes,
You said yes,
including the notes on the map,
including the notes on the map? Yeah, no.
they're illegible,
Yeah, good luck reading.
chicken scratches.
And we can discuss that.
That is
Although it could
Over
be,
this coming week.
Okay, so it looks like somehow that analysis slipped out, so Cassie's running another one really quick right now, and she'll bring it
Joey,
up.
you're gonna speak up just. a
Oh, I'm
little
sorry. So it looks like that analysis somehow wasn't ran in when we added all the shape files, so she's doing that analysis for the MA one right now. But it does look like that EW one, that analysis that you saw in the EW one was for the old EW map, so it doesn't slip.
So it hasn't changed,
It did change, that was the problem. You had the analysis for the old EW.
so that's no good to us.
Yes, so we're getting you a new EW analysis.
Grab screen.
Did we beg, borrow, or steal a printer?
How did you get such nice copies?
Yeah, I don't know if we solved the printer problem from the other day.
Oh, how it wasn't, like it's better quality.
No, at some point you said there was no
Yeah,
printer.
we weren't able to get all the
Last-
printers. We
Yeah,
bought-
there were 2 or 3 meetings ago.
That was last year, right? So long ago.
Yeah, we did, gotta change the toner waste.
This is what comes, Cassie, of making us dependent upon you and your information.
Oh, didn't Gordon tell
Pressure.
you? I was leaving to go see a townhome. It was okay. The garage was my favorite part, which considering I don't spend a lot of time in the garage, it's probably not the right fit for me, I was like, oh, I love this garage. I had lots of other questions about the unit, like why the fireplace wasn't centered in the living room. I was like, that's gonna bug me forever. I can't do it.
Again, about orange 3.3, why you like orange 3.3.
Can you
Sorry.
tell us your thoughts on Orange 3.3 again?
It's not perfect. The idea was to make 2 urban districts. And then, because that's where the majority of the population is. But it does cut Salt Lake into 3. Although that third piece is 1,000 people, so it's not, I mean, it is a cut, but it's not a
But it's
significant
not a
cut into Salt Lake. That was just to try and balance the numbers, because I think we got it down to 7
Yeah.
as a
Good,
deviation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one.
Okay, are you ready for the MA statistics?
Yes.
So in the MA map, it looks like Salt Lake.
Put them on the screen.
I don't have it like that, but I can take it like that if you want. You're gonna need to give me another minute.
Okay, well, that's all right. Can you give us the county splits?
Yes, I can start with that. So in this map, Salt Lake is split into 3 districts.
What's the distribution of population?
So District 2 has 423,000 people in it and plus 37. District 3 has 81 people in it, so that's a smaller cut. And then the 4th district has 762,120 people. It also has a split in Utah County, and that's split into District 1, which has 461,617 people. 2 has 197,782 people.
Okay. Is that all of Utah County then?
So it's split into 2 different districts.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
but in total, that's all of Utah County.
In total, that's all, okay.
Yeah.
And the 81 people,
Yeah.
that's probably fixable.
Probably.
That's probably what?
Fixable.
Fixable, that's what I.
That 81, but yeah. Solid County.
So this is that split in Salt Lake. It looks like you just have the mountainous area right here in District 3.
So
Might
does
not
that
be
go all the way up
fixable.
to the, it may not be fixable now. That doesn't go all the way up to Canyons then, does it?
No. So here, let me fix that yellow line. I'm sure that's hard to see. And I can put it on that
What
screen over there.
happens, does it get emigration? Canyon, at least?
That's more split in the south too.
It looks like it
Or is
does.
that part of immigration?
Commissioner Durham, I put it on that screen over there.
Oh, thank you.
So it looks like stuff that can be cleaned up. You could probably push that up. The deviations would get messed up at that point.
Fix that, you're probably gonna have to cross the
Yeah,
bountiful line.
right, that's right.
See, there's that little, so that little piece of immigration comes out right there.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Immigration's a township. I know the name. I know the name. I should have, wonder what he thinks about all this.
I think there was some southern area in the county that also.
Piece down
Okay,
here.
and what about cities, city splits? Were those all the county?
Yeah, those are all the county. Joey, do you want to look at Utah County really quick? Just I want to see. Yeah, and that's the Utah County split.
So it's, you know, Lehigh in the northern part of the county, and then most of the rest of the county is in District 1. Except for the sparsely populated area.
Okay. Cities I'm seeing split include Bountiful. And
What's the count?
for Bountiful, it's in District 3 and 4.
Total.
Oh, total?
Cities split.
12.
What?
There are 12 cities split in this plan.
Oh, okay.
Any small chunks that are fixable or?
It It looks like there's a small chunk in West Bountiful that can be fixed. It's about 9 people. Brighton is split. It's pretty small generally, so it has 415 people in one district and 17 people in the other district. So that's another one that probably would be fixed. Park City has 81 people away from the city. As you know, there are the 18 people that cross the county,
Yeah.
Right.
but this includes more, I think, than what crosses the county since it's coming up as 81. So those are some notable things that I think probably want to be fixed with this map.
Now, is that the one that has Davis County with Daggett County?
Yes.
Yes.
That doesn't seem good. What do you think about that, Lyle?
Well, you go to Evanston or Wyoming and go to it or through. Of course, as I think about it, Congressional may not be that bad because one congressman in Uinta County is going to be able to help Daggett. I don't think anybody's going to say, get out of here, you're in Daggett, not Uinta.
Yeah.
But you don't get there without going out of state or going through another district.
Okay, so that was MA.
Mhm.
And do we have EW?
Yep, I will do that right now.
Okay. No, anybody who wants is welcome to my notes.
Just don't require you to appear at a deposition, explain them all.
The assumption is that I'll be able to read them in 2 weeks now.
My handwriting is bad enough that my law clerks can read it better than I could after 45 minutes. I'm okay for the first 45 minutes after I've
But
read
after
them.
that, it's.
After that, they're better at reading than I am.
Shopping. Supply chain is gunked up.
That's what my movers just told me. I had too much stuff.
Did you count your boxes?
I've got boxes that will be there for years, I'm afraid, unpacked. I mean, packed.
Twila City was not split.
Okay. Of course, the things I need are someplace.
Someplace in those boxes, exactly. I know, I couldn't.
It
see
is
it.
kind of hard to tell sometimes, don't it?
Yeah, it is. Then life could proceed.
1 second. Just reconnecting my internet.
I Thought I had a kitchen. I still have my papers all over.
I know, I was convinced I lost the whole box of kitchen stuff. I finally gave up and ordered new stuff. And then I found it in the drawer that I had first and forgotten about. And then, of course, I threw away a whole bunch of things that I've then discovered I still need.
Although I did discover 3 candle burners.
Oh, that's the other thing. Once we have like 17 pairs of scissors. Whenever I'd lose them, I'd buy a new pair.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, EW.
For EW, I see a split in Salt Lake County.
How many ways?
This is the one split, so it's in District 2 and in District 4.
What are the size differences?
So in District 2, there's 690,225 people. In District 4, there's 495,013 people. And then there's also a split in Utah County. And it's almost split evenly. So in District 3, there's 336,507 people. And in District 4, there's 322,892 people.
And
then
counties?
Davis as well. So in Davis, the split isn't quite half the county, and by quite, I mean not close. So in District 1, there's 350,052 people, and in District 2, there's 12,627 people.
What's the boundary on that one?
Davis. I already scrolled it up.
Just a piece of.
North Salt Lake. Piece of North Salt Lake.
Piece of North Salt Lake, okay.
And North Salt Lake itself is split about in half. So when I pull up the city split, obviously North Salt Lake is on that. In District 1, it has 10,185 people, and in District 2, it has 11,722 people. So it split the city about in half. Other city splits include Midvale, Orem, Park City, which is the split that you normally see with the 18 people that cross the county boundary.
Any of them split more than once?
No, they're all just split between 2 districts.
Okay.
Where's the orange split at?
North and south.
Even out Vineyard.
Okay, I close my eyes and I see those maps.
I know. Me too.
At least the numbers haven't started chasing you yet.
No, but those little hexagons are getting aggressive.
How many city splits were there?
That's 4.
Just the 4.
Just 4.
Could you zoom out on that?
Which map is this again?
This is EW.
EW?
So,
Yes.
Rex, I have a suggestion.
Mhm.
There may be a better way to do it. But rather than fussing with that chart up there and all the little messy initials and so on, I'm wondering if we could get blank sheets of paper and each of us write whatever we want. If we want to put our top 3 in, or all of the ones we vote for, whatever we want to do it, and just hand those in and let somebody tally them. I think that'd be faster and neater than trying to use the whiteboard.
Try to go 1, 2, 3 and add them up and the lowest score. Or the 3 lowest scores win.
Although some of them are similar to each other. I mean, it would, there are 4 with an urban district. may spread those 4 votes out and yet as compared to
Well,
something
if you want to
else.
do that, I don't care if there are urban districts in each map. So,
But I do.
right. So that's
you
fine. We
vote
can
your
each
way,
vote.
I'll vote my.
Exactly.
But my suggestion is, if I list 3 names, they may not be on the list. I would rather knock off 1 or 2 and then re-vote again as you go up, because I like my vote to count. But my vote may not count if there's 4 in one way and 2 someplace else.
So how would you order the voting?
Go ahead and vote and drop the 3 off and then vote again. Drop 3 off and vote again.
Okay, but how would we vote?
I'd rather have to do no open meeting, just vote
So-
you're gonna vote, so people know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I still.
I don't care. I just thought it'd be more
Yeah.
efficient.
Throw this second thought out. We might want to be consistent with what we did in Harriman
Sure.
for purposes of
Okay, I
consistency.
withdraw my
Which
suggestion.
was, see,
Chaos.
Yeah.
So,
Didn't each of us recommend our top 3?
yes.
and what's going to be the impact of that vote?
Well, what I had originally thought was if each of us nominated 2, we could perhaps get a list then that's not the full list here, but yet one that, if, for example,
Shows some overlap.
it may show some overlap, but it also makes sure that everybody has a chance to get their preferred map on the table. Then after that, we then have a vote on each one of them.
So you may end up having 4 with 5 votes then.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll explain my vote. I've gone through and I've counted all, there's 8 of these I could vote for. And I could vote comfortable, all in 8, if one of the 8 is included in the 3. If none of the 8 are included in the 3, then I'm a no vote on whatever the commission goes up with. One of the 3 is fine. So that's why I would make a motion on these 8 and see how the votes are. If there's no votes with them, then I know how I vote.
Well, yeah, so the majority doesn't matter then.
Not on this. I think if the majority counted, then nobody could have a no vote. I don't think that's really what you want to have.
And I guess is Matt back there
I'm here.
hiding?
I'm hiding. A big
Is
wall
there,
between
is there
us.
anything inappropriate about doing it that way so that if one of your choices isn't on the list, you just vote no on the submission?
All we have to guide us is the language of the statute, and it doesn't clarify the means or the manner by which you arrive at the maps. All it does is require a certain number
Of affirmative votes.
of affirmative votes.
Yeah.
And so I think as far as the process is concerned, it really is up to the commission to decide how best to identify those.
Well, I
cannot
was-
vote for 3 if none of the 3 meet my criteria.
Criteria.
Yeah.
Well, I was prepared to be, to go with the majority vote, even if none of mine showed up on the final list. But if you're gonna go that way, then there's no reason for me to feel bound by a majority vote.
I'm just,
Commissioner Hill.
thank you. I don't see, I would be interested to know what the top 2 of every commissioner's choice would be.
Yeah.
Just so I can see where the commission is.
So it's a straw poll.
And we could
To be
do that
clear.
as a straw poll, and that would get us down the road a
Okay.
And
little
then we can have more discussion and then,
on this issue. Yeah,
But
it might not come up.
I don't like any of these, to tell you the truth. That I'm picking the lesser of the evil.
so
And
pick
so-
2 of.
The
2
two
of the
least
maps that
evil.
have the least.
And I think we're all in that boat. I don't think anybody thinks there are.
So,
But that way you would
Perfect
make
match
sure
here.
one of your 8 at least gets on the list for discussion.
Well, see, my
Or 2 of
problem
them.
is, 2 of them is orange CD2, the one I helped prepare with you. And there didn't seem a lot of support for that. And I also like the green one because I think it protects the rural area and does that. I don't think there's support for that. So I could put those 2 up and there was no other votes for them, then I'm now 6 others. But I have a hard time picking anyone as being the best because I think they're all weak.
sure. Every map has some flaw, I think.
As long as it's a straw poll, I think the idea of putting 2 up there and seeing where we are and which direction we want to go from there.
Could I suggest we do 3 for
for a straw poll. 3 each.
Okay,
But that's not the final vote.
but that's not
Not
the
the
final
final
vote, yeah. So just
This
a
is not a
straw vote.
vote. This is a
This
nomination,
is a straw poll.
straw poll.
Straw poll to nominate if for
Yeah,
further
and
discussion.
Instead of bothering with initials, et cetera, Soraya,
Just tally.
why don't you just put the names of the districts and count how many votes they get?
We can just put a tick mark by each
Yeah.
one. Move it out so they can see it.
Yeah, so everybody could see that. Apparently that was probably the other night.
So what I had thought if we would do, in part, because we had some discussion about advantages of voting first and advantages of voting last. I thought that through these, we might rotate the order of voting just to make sure that we shared that opportunity around. And so I was going to suggest that Commissioner Durham give us her, I guess we're going for 3.
I would suggest 3. I think it'll give us.
If you did 2, but have each of us vote on one district and then go back around again. So that we're not.
That's okay. Do one at a time. That's fine.
We'll go Commissioner Durham, then Commissioner Hilliard, then Commissioner Hale, and then
What about Commissioner Thorne? Doesn't he?
then Commissioner Thorne, then Commissioner
I see.
Baker, then
I see.
First 2 are the same. Last the best of all the game.
Instead
So,
of initial, right, we're just tallying.
so yeah, just tallies, yes,
Okay, so I'm just giving you one.
yes.
Okay, I would lobby 1 vote at purple 4.5.
Yes, Commissioner Hilliard.
CV public.
TV.
CV.
Yes. Commissioner Hale?
Purple CD4.
Commissioner Thorne.
SH2.
Commissioner Baker.
Purple.
Well, I'll do purple at this point. Because we still have one more round.
Right.
So Commissioner Durham?
Okay, so this is the next round, right?
Yes.
Okay. Orange 3.3.
Okay.
And I would go with PH SH2. I think that's the one.
Yes. The SH2.
Oh, CH2.
Commissioner Hale, thank you. Glad you can keep track. So Commissioner Hale.
Yes. I'll say PSS SH2.
Now Commissioner Thorne.
CV public.
Commissioner Baker.
SH1.
I will go SH2.
We have 2 of them.
Okay, so shall we have some additional conversation about these?
I could support all 3 of the top 3 vote getters.
I couldn't.
I could.
This is the one.
I could. For those 3.
We want to do one more round and get any other districts into the maps into the mix.
Sure, we can do one more round. See if there are
It
any
may
other
not
maps.
help, but. Am I starting
Yeah,
now?
you would start again.
Okay, EW public.
Okay, and Lyle.
I'll go with my fellow Commissioner Orange. 1, 331. Or 33.
Okay. Commissioner Hay.
Public. Well, we certainly have narrow
Thorne?
lines or
Orange 3-3.
Commissioner Baker.
EW.
And I'll go orange 3-3.
we certainly have narrowed it down. We're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maps.
Yeah.
Well, we can erase the ones that didn't get any votes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure, so we're gonna just do with the ones there on the board. Okay.
Right.
Handwriting is much better.
Yeah, listen. Absolutely. That was a problem with the hiring committee. They did not check handwriting, and I'm gonna blame them specifically on that.
Might move.
Yeah, such a good
I
time.
missed one.
That was-
MR Public goes.
So at this point, what I thought is that we could have a vote on each of those. And if three of them got 5 or more votes, then those would be the 3 that would go forward.
Although I think one of the problems is Lyle needs to have one of his possibles in that group to go forward.
Well,
Yeah,
he's got orange 3-3, so.
no,
The SH2 is the one I've got to have. Both the orange 3-3 and the purple 4-5 have all of southern Utah.
Yeah.
In the district, and I can't accept that.
so knowing that, does anybody else have any kind of do or die votes?
CV is the one that has the entire Salt Lake district.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things we heard from a lot of people.
Okay,
Yeah,
Can I make a
exactly.
suggestion though?
if you can.
What you did with the first 9 is you voted them in a package. Is there a way we could group 3 of these into a package that we would get 5 votes? No?
Gordon, we grouped them into a packet after we had voted on each of them individually.
Okay, so
And everyone in that packet had 5 votes.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
I would make a motion that we combine purple CD 4-5, orange Congressional 3.3, and SH2 as a packet of 3 maps that we submit unanimously to the legislature.
Is your reason for that because they all got 4 votes?
Yeah.
I have to look at SH2 again. That was a big no for me the first time through, but I'm gonna look at it again.
That's the one I think he went back and revised.
Yes.
And I think it's
Only 2.
instead of 3, 4.
That spreads out.
So the Salt Lake district is 617,000 in D2, 514,000 in D4.
Was that the one that had so many splits though?
No,
No.
this one has very few splits, although we don't have the
That was,
final
So
number.
it's
I can run it.
Did you run the SH2 split?
Yep, I'll run it as it currently stands.
I'm getting it.
So
Just one
Cassidy's
page
gonna
at a
get us the
time.
final on the updated SH2 splits.
Okay.
that's the one that with Moon's number was in the top 3 in each category.
So it doesn't have an urban district, but it also doesn't split Salt Lake 3 ways.
Right.
Yes.
The world in 3 different districts.
Fox Elder County, wants you to believe that they're still rural.
Split St. George.
Right, it did not split St. George. Yeah, there was a little piece by the airport that just split.
Sure that was fine too. Talk to that. SH, not SH, so it didn't have traffic. Whatever be done, be done.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Yeah.
some of us, go back through all of the line. I mean, if this is one of the ones we want to put forward, I would like to suggest that we have a team go through all of the boundaries closely.
Oh, yeah.
To see what we can clean up.
Yeah.
And then have Jeff come along and
Jeff's-
clean up behind that.
That's right. Jeff has just been chomping at the bit.
It's not because I'm excited to do it. It's the time frame I'm concerned about.
You don't need to sleep, do you?
Okay, so we're
Oh,
going
it's
to
lots
look
of
at the
weird
stats on SH2 again.
Yep, I almost have them ready for you.
All right, you're very kind. Thank you. The deviations are nice.
Yes.
Although it's kind of nice, the public to this map. Just they work on that hard.
Well, and, yeah, I will note that.
No,
one of
it's
the-
SH2 we want to look at.
Well, no, I was just moving it so that it's higher up.
Oh, I see.
So
You're
it's
just
tucked
cleaning up
down
the-
Oh, so we don't have to look down there at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
Have the handwriting, you can do that.
That's
You're sure you can do it.
better than arrows.
Otherwise, yeah, I was just gonna say, otherwise you can draw arrows.
Man, okay, are you ready?
Yes.
So for the Salt Lake split, District 2 has 671,985 people. District 4 has 513,253 people. In the Davis split, District 1 has 350,056 people. District 2 has 12,623 people. And then we also see a split in Washington County that has 76,568 people in District 3. And then in District 4, there are 103,711 people.
And what about cities?
For cities, I see a total of 5 cities split. The first city I see is Draper. District 3 has 3,284 people, where District 4 has 47,733 people.
And that might be Suncrest.
In North Salt Lake, District 1 has 9,284 people, and District 2 has 12,623. I see a small split in Santaquin. However, this looks like it's the county boundary that causes that split.
Yeah, there's like-
So there's like 15 people. Yeah, that's what split this is in Santaquin. In St. George, District 3 has 17,507 people, and District 4 has 77,835 people. And then the final city split is in West Valley. District 2 has 117,763 people, while District 4 has 22,467 people.
Can't remember much of the comments about any of those city splits. They're not huge.
Well,
At this,
go ahead.
catch me while you can. At this point, I would be comfortable with Lyle's proposed compromise with the purple, the SH2, and EW. Oh, no, I'm sorry, purple, orange congressional, and SH2. I beg your pardon.
I'm okay with that too.
Since 2 of my 3 votes are in the bottom of the stack. I will support that also.
One thing you need to learn in this area, you have to learn to be a good loser. Because if you're like me, you lose a lot of times.
So,
I'll support that.
So, okay, so that was all a straw vote, so what do we want to do
And
next?
for the sake of discussion, I think Rob probably could have supported that too.
I know, if he'd hung around.
So we have,
I'll make a formal motion that the commission adopt as our three maps for the congressional. Purple CD 45, orange congressional 33, and SH2.
second. Okay, we have motion and second discussion.
Discussion, is there any need to do a formal vote so that each of purple, SH2 and orange get 5 commission votes?
I think if we get 5 here, we're done.
If we get 5 of you for the packet, I would,
5 on the packet's fine? Okay. Is that right?
he's not in the room, but
And Jackie, you want to,
Yeah, Jackie.
You want to stick your head into the noose?
I would agree with that, but I should double check.
you can, when I talked to Matt, he was comfortable with that, so.
okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, not hearing any. All in favor of the motion as described, purple CD45, SH2, and orange congressional 33. All in favor, say
Let's
aye.
do a roll call just so it's
Oh, roll
clear.
call, sure. And we'll do it in a different order. In part because I went to all the hard work of creating a second order.
Except when you're tired to do this kind of hard work.
So Commissioner Hilliard,
Aye.
Commissioner Hale,
Aye.
Commissioner Durham,
Aye.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Facer, aye. The motion carries with a 6-0 vote.
But I think one of the things that's nice is all the votes were by consensus, which as an independent commission, we don't have authority other than moral authority.
So we've got, and I'll tell you, the whole thing would be different if we were directed to prepare 4 maps, 1 for each area, and that was final.
Yeah.
There'd be no manifest changes to it.
Then we'd be fighting.
Yeah, I think I'm way short of having my full knowledge of exactly how these all. We appreciate Representative Waite pointing out to us an issue that none of us were of an important.
It's interesting that one of our final maps is a publicly submitted one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stuart will appreciate that. It's actually his birthday today, according to Twitter. So I'm sure he's thrilled.
Well, we're assuming he's watching, so happy birthday.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching.
What made the difference was the handwriting. I hope everybody took notes.
Probably did have an impact.
All right. So we had, next on the agenda, we had Matt for any potential legal discussion. Is there anything we need to?
Anything we need to undo that we just did?
Are there any red flags that we need to be aware of from your perspective?
No, not that I'm aware of, but I do think it's important that we discuss this memo and the issue on political data. And so I'm just handing you a memo that Herm and Jackie and Professor Persley have been working on quite some time, and it obviously is an issue that's important to the commission, and important to legal counsel on this. And this deals with the URC Standard 6 and the provision in the statutes, Redistricting Act, concerning purposeful or undue favoring or disfavoring of any political party. And may I just, first of all, commend the commission through this entire process. Early on, we had flagged this as a legal team and the staff and have been going back and forth for really months and trying to understand best how to present this information and to do it in a way that would allow the commission to fulfill its desires and purposes as it's stated early on. Commend the commission for adopting the standard not to consider any political information whatsoever in the creation of the maps. What's been going on behind the scenes, in addition to all the review of the criteria of the objective nonpartisan data, has also been at least some initial analysis as to whether there was any unintentional favoring or disfavoring that resulted with some of these maps. And so I'm going to discuss basically what our interpretation of the statute is with respect to any unintentional favoring or disfavoring, and then provide, I think, the good news that based on the analyses that none of the maps of the 12 that we've seen appear to come close to triggering or being any concern, which is a really nice testament to the process that was gone through. But we think is also important that any of the maps submitted not unintentionally favor or disfavor a political party, candidate, or incumbent. And so if you'll just flip to page 2, I'm just going to walk through our analysis a little bit, because I think there's going to be a lot of discussion and questions as people now do these types of reviews and analyses, just so that you can understand what role that plays as far as how the statute is created. And so starting there on section 1, we begin with section 302 of the Redistricting Act, which has this language: the commission shall define and adopt redistricting standards for use by the commission that require that maps adopted by the commission, to the extent practicable, comply with the following as defined by the commission. And then we have A through F here, and F reads: prohibiting the purposeful or undue favoring or disfavoring of an incumbent elected official, a candidate or prospective candidate for elected office, or a political party. On August 27th, after discussion among the commission and some proposed language and changes, the commission adopted its standard 6, which essentially takes this exact language and puts it into the standard. And that standard reads: the commission will, to the extent practicable, prohibit the purposeful or undue favoring or disfavoring of an incumbent elected official, candidate, or prospective candidate for elected office or political party. In so doing, the commission will consider direct or indirect evidence of intent, and where practicable, quantitative measures. The commission went further to include this express provision: the commission will not use residential addresses of incumbents, candidates, or prospective candidates in creating its proposed maps. Now, this was not a requirement of the statute, but something that the commission could choose to do. And yet the commission went yet a step further and said, in addition to this, we're not going to consider anything political. And through this process, I think as I've seen, as the public has seen, that has certainly been the case from my vantage point, that there's been no consideration whatsoever in the actual drawing of the maps. Now, there's a question in the wording of this statute as to whether or not a map could be submitted that, although not purposefully favoring or unduly favoring a political party, unintentionally did so, meaning although you didn't look at any political information, does the statute prohibit you from sending forth a map if that map were deemed to be favoring or disfavoring of a political party? And
what about a person? Say, we have no idea where people live. We submit a map, and suddenly we take an incumbent and put them in a very small corner of a big district, so they really have lost their district. We didn't intend to, but inadvertently, we have prejudiced the candidate because of how we've drawn the lines.
And that's part of the tricky nature of this, because that's the plain language, as it says it includes both.
There's the word undo in there.
Correct.
And if the question is whether it's an undue favoring or disfavoring, to draw a rational line for a district based on numbers and cores and communities of interest and all the other factors.
I will note that our 2 judges raised the same issue at the same time.
Well, and that's, I think, a critical part of this language, and something that had we needed to address that with respect to any troubling maps, that would then become the discussion among the commission, and the commission would have to define and decide what does that mean to unduly.
I don't know that it's possible to draw a map that doesn't result in some candidate or some incumbent saying, I'm not in as good a position as I would if you drew it my way.
Just changing the boundaries is gonna do that.
Exactly. And that's one of the challenges that we've been grappling with. And I think one of the good byproducts of the commission's decision not to consider any political data, I think gives you at least that initial kind of cover and explanation with respect to that, to say, we chose not to look at where the incumbents live. We chose not to look at political data or information. But Commissioner Hilliard does raise the issue that we've been grappling with, is even though you didn't consider it, do any of these 12 maps unduly favor or disfavor? Now, with respect to the political parties, that is something that the staff and Moon and others have been looking at to see, hey, does this even get close to a scenario where that could be an issue for the commission? At this point, and I think they'll now run some additional analyses to make sure that all 12 are within that realm of centrality or reasonableness, such that it doesn't broach any of the tales that would suggest undue favoring.
Take an actual election downstream from now to conclusively determine if favoring occurred.
That's I'd invite everyone to read the Rucho v. Common Cause case in 2018, and part of the challenges in trying to define this. But as Justice Keegan, I think, identified, what other states have done is they'll take the political data from 12, 16, 20, and all that, just to kind of give them the best idea. And if there's such an extreme outlier, which was arguably the case with respect to those other states, that would rise to the level. But you raised that often raised argument of, well, how do you ever know for certain? I think
if I could, oh, sorry. Also, I just wanted to suggest I have some plots ready to show for the congressional maps right now for the ones that you selected.
Fantastic.
Well, and I'm hesitant to have you show the.
Okay, sure.
Because I think they're going to be making some tweaks to it still, Moon.
Fair enough.
One is pretty horrible. I want to hear about it.
Exactly.
No, just to say,
And that's, yeah.
Just to say, I think you have a really clean bill of health. So just to agree with everyone else.
So, and I think that sign off, and Professor personally, I think, agrees, and we've been in communication throughout this entire process to make sure, hey, we got to make sure the commission is complying with what our reading of the statute requires. And that is, even though they didn't look at any political data, we think that the plain language of the statute, as well as the standard that was adopted by the commission, would prohibit the commission from submitting a map that unintentionally favors or disfavors.
So if we have a clean bill of health and we're going to be monkeying around the edges before they go in, I would love to hear Moon statistics the day after we've submitted the maps.
Absolutely. And I
Just
think
for curiosity's sake.
well, and I think it's important too, as part of our report, because that is a requirement on the commission under the statute, is that you will not submit a map that unduly favors or disfavors. So I think it's contemplated that those statistics will actually be in the report, so that we as the legal counsel have to sign off that the commission is complying with their statutory criteria and
But we
obligations.
weren't privy to that information at the time we
Until
approved
after our
these
maps.
maps.
Until after it is final, correct. And so it's been this delicate dance that is a very difficult one, and one that I think other commissions are grappling with, and there's no easy solution. Because had one of the maps unduly favored, or at least potentially, and that would be for the commission to decide, it creates those practical problems of what do you do with it
And
now?
we have to dig into it.
I want to also say a lot of thought and analysis went into this memo, so I'd invite you to read it, because we took this very seriously in trying to instruct the commission and advise you as to what the law requires on you. And this was a challenging question, but the more we dug into it, it became more and more clear to us that this unintentional favoring was intentional, part of the statute, that's what the plain language requires. That's what other states have also done. I spoke with some people that were, in fact, in as part of the negotiation with Senate Bill 200. And according to those conversations, this was a specific topic of conversation to say, no, we need purposeful or unintentional. And hence that they really focused on that language of purposeful or undue favoring. And so based on the plain language, based on other state statutes, based on the best we can get as to the intent of those who were drafting it, we feel very comfortable and confident that that requirement is on the commission. And we're also very pleased to report that that does not appear to be an issue. Now, as at some point, I guess we could have Moon talk about how she came about to even get to the question of whether it even got close to something where it would trigger in anyone's mind, legal counsel or otherwise, that it's undue influence. But I'm thinking, Moon, we may just table that till later and let them, just so as not to taint what has already been a very clean and pure process as far as no political data. So as far as whether there needed to be a formal evaluation of these, you'll see in section 2, it outlines what is provided for in the statute under subsection 302.8. And there we read that upon affirmative vote of 3 commissioners, any of the maps could be requested to be evaluated. In other words, the commissioners of 3 commissioners said, we want the staff to specifically evaluate a map. You would then direct the staff to undertake such an evaluation. And under the statute, it says it's to evaluate the map's compliance with the criteria. Now, as you've known, there's been an informal evaluation that's happened from early on, which I think all agree has led to better map making and better information, but at no point has partisan data been a part of that evaluation. Now, if 3 commissioners were for whatever reason to say, hey, staff, you need to now evaluate a particular map, it's our legal view that that evaluation wouldn't necessarily include an evaluation of unintentional undue favoring. And so the fact that we didn't have to get to that point, I think is helpful from a practical standpoint, because once that evaluation takes place and that information is then reported, it really limits the commission's options as to what to do with any potentially offending map. Commissioner Baker, do you have a question on that?
No, just remind me not to ask a legal question again.
Oh, boy. Well, this will help you get to sleep tonight if you read it, if anything. It's legal jargon, but I think it's important.
I heard you say it was saying it was a clean process. I'm good.
Yes, and clean results, just as important. So the process as well as the results, I think the statute contemplates and requires both the process and no purposeful, as well as that you're not submitting any map, even unintentionally, that unduly favors a political party.
Just a follow-up question. One of the concerns I have is the fact that we're going to be attacked for gerrymandering. And I raised that issue. I apologize, I guess, to the professor, because I thought he clarified that. I don't know whether you evaluated or staff has evaluated whether there was any gerrymandering done in the maps that we presented. I don't think there was. I
It has
know.
not been evaluated,
Well, it essentially.
unless it's what Moon's doing now.
It is what Moon has done along the way. And I think now, with respect to the 12
She
maps.
just hasn't told us about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And Professor Persley hasn't, and that's been deliberate so as to
Sure.
try to keep the.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Well, and it's a challenge, and I apologize. I would have liked to have provided information early, but I think it just unnecessarily complicated the process. And it's really remarkable that we're now to a point where we could have avoid that situation. And I think Professor Persley, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but would now be more comfortable saying, yes, now there's a clean bill of health as to these 12 maps that have been submitted with respect to the partisan undue favoring or disfavoring. So that is a very
Reading an article on the Stanford School Magazine about his class that's looking at redistricting.
Oh, yes.
Have they talked about what we're doing?
Oh, very much so. They've been talking about the entire country, from what I understand, and talking to Professor Persley. He teaches a class at Stanford on.
I can jump in if you want.
Oh, and there he is, the voice from the sky.
I, for some reason, my video does not seem to be an option though. I don't know if there's a way.
Accept the invite I just sent you. Okay, you should be able to turn on your video now.
I would have worn my suit though, had I known that I was gonna be.
Although Professor Persley, I will note that you're not as large as you were in front of the French Parliament the other day.
My general view right now is let's just end everything and run. Even this discussion is making me nervous, and so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so what you're doing, you achieved your goals without having to resort to what would have been some of these very complicated, difficult issues. I think insulating you from the political data completely is exactly the right thing to do. And I have been watching from afar and impressed with how the discussion progressed. And yes, these final maps are ones that I think clearly comply with all the applicable laws. So to the extent that's a message you wanted to hear from me, I consider it sent. But I really do think that you all are right to think about not considering these issues, whether legal or data, until after you've submitted the maps. And I think that I want to just leave it there. In fact, even the memo is making me nervous a little bit right now for you all, because everything's working so well, and sometimes in redistricting processes, that's not always the case. So you had asked about whether there was impermissible gerrymandering, and I wasn't quite sure what you meant beyond compliance with the law, but I don't see it that way. I mean, I think that there's no evidence of impermissible considerations coming into this process. And I should say, I'm certainly not talking, my class is talking about all the states around the country. We're not talking about anything, any non-public issues or anything like that. You can see they put up maps. I haven't even looked at their Utah map to try to insulate myself from that. But you can see the way that they've learned how to redistrict. But congratulations is, I think, the way, now's the time to pop the champagne, even though I know that you're going to be tweaking them over the next few days. And please tell me if I can be helpful, although I will be testifying in the US Senate on Thursday, but I can come back through Utah if necessary.
Well, I like your advice to end and run.
I can tell you there have been times when I have been working for courts and I would outpace the court security by running after a redistricting plan. So I appreciate that. But congratulations on all that you all were able to do. It really is a model for going forward. I was extremely impressed. And it's been a pleasure to be a part of it, even in a small way.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, thank you for all your help. And thank you, Matt.
It's been my pleasure, and I'll take that cue to sit
And
down.
Jackie.
We're not going to go over any more of the memo. It's like when a judge tells me, you don't want to.
There's no sense snatching defeat from the
Jaws
jaws
of victory, as Judge Cassell would say to me very many times.
I think Matt ought now draw the bill that the legislature will have to enact with all these streets and all this. I'm kidding you. It'll take staff literally 3 or 4 days, just almost full time with computers to get the bill they can pass.
I know that we've tasked our chair and the attorney to talk to Commissioner Bishop about what he intended with the vote. Given what we have done now, would anybody object to talking about whether or not he would support all 12 bills as a package? Or is it too late and that bridge has got burned?
I don't see any legal restriction from approaching him to ask if he would reconsider his assignment and support the
Because I think what we have done fits with what at least I heard him saying before would be necessary for him to support a package.
I can make a comment. In the legislature, if you want to change a vote or clarify a vote, you can do that with the consent of the body, plus it doesn't change the results. And I would recommend we follow that. If anybody doesn't want him, if he wants to change, number one, if anybody doesn't want him to change, I think you can object to it. If not, if there's no objection, it doesn't change the result.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
Are we gonna jump to there quickly or?
Sorry, Gordon, I missed it. You've got this little presentation thing.
There's a couple
As well as a
things going on.
report that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so a couple things we'd like to
I got
do.
anxious about the running, so.
Yeah, you're right, and I'm gonna tell you to
We
run.
ran from the subject.
No, so we're posting the 12 maps, and that will be up before the end of the meeting for the public to see. We're gonna have a button and make sure people can get access to look at them. So two things. One, I think it would be valuable to have a meeting Friday where it's done, but you get a chance to talk about the changes you made over the last week to your maps. I'd like to make the recommendation that the steward of SH2 would be green team to work on that, because the purple and orange already have a congressional team map to work on. So I'm looking at Commissioner Durham and Commissioner Baker to take that on and do as
Cleanup. Yeah.
Well, and again, it's your map, so you're the steward of that map. So the same thing that other teams are doing with theirs. And so I'm looking at it at one last public or meeting, and that would be Friday at 4 o'clock.
3:30 is what we've talked.
Oh, 3:30, that's what I meant, 3:30. And we can go over all the details. And I think at that time, it may be very interesting to have Moon's complete presentation on the partisan everything, because at that point, you've stopped, it's done, we've submitted, it's no more. If you want to do it, or we can do it after it's submitted. So you get to choose.
I would prefer to do it after submission, so there's never a question.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then
But I would love to have her views.
it's
before
kind
this
of
is
fun to
all-
listen to, so I'm not gonna just tell you that. We'll leave it at that.
Could we get it Monday afternoon before we go to the committee, or after we present it to the legislative committee?
Okay.
We're doing that Monday.
When are we doing that?
2
Monday
o'clock.
at 2 o'clock.
So I'm going to talk about that right now as well. One thing we'd like to do is we seem to have garnered a lot of interest in our meeting tonight. Yay. And so we would like to have an opportunity for the press to come and look at each of the maps and talk to the makers of those maps and have them discuss that. So we were anticipating maybe tomorrow at 4 to have you come, and we allow them to come, and we would bring up the maps and we would ask questions and let people talk to their maps. Because you guys, and that's the other thing I want to say, you guys have done a fantastic job. Absolutely outstanding. Every one of you. There are splits that all of you wish you didn't have to make. And there's no map that doesn't have a split you don't want to make. But the fact that you did this in a totally transparent process and you did it with caring for the people, that is really what democracy is about. It's not that you get your way or it comes the way you exactly want it, but it ends up being having people that care about, that don't have an alternative motive for what's going on. And that's what I've seen here. And so it's absolutely outstanding to see that in a democratic republic notion. So I think it's valuable, yes.
I would add, Gordon, I think when we post it, we ought to encourage people to look at precisely the map, and make any specific suggestions to the map with where to correct where the bubble pops up someplace else. I mean, I think that would be helpful. I don't want to hear, yeah, I love this or I hate this map. But if they could say like,
Constructive.
yeah,
criticism.
like Representative Wade did, that's the type of thing that we need to hear before we finish up Friday.
Yeah, and I'm going to suggest that maybe our public comments in are going to start waning a little bit as a result of staff doing other things now. So your cleanup is going to be a little bit, we're going to take away some of the static. You can just focus on where you're at and what you've heard. If we see something terrific coming through, we'll make sure we rush it to you hot off the press. but I think you know where you're at. And I think they're extremely great maps. These are high quality in the sense that they work for the schools, for the clerks, that they're going to work for the public. They work for people, everybody. This works for Utah. So I'm excited about having the press look at that. And then the second is we need to do a presentation on the 1st. And so one of the things we'd like to do is have each of the commissioners be part of that. And there's specific things that I think would be really good. For example, I'd like to have one of the commissioners that are really good in GIS talk about his way of putting community of interest together. I think it would be valuable to talk about some of the things that you heard at the public hearings. If Grouse Creek doesn't come up in part of that presentation, I'm going to ask you to stand back up and give part of the presentation. But I think the aspect of what you learned, what you did, and why these maps really reflect what you have heard from the people.
The Kimbers there will be very happy to know we mentioned.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And I know it's Crick. I know it's Crick. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to do it right. So I want you to think about that because staff can help prepare some of, if you want to have any PowerPoints showing you the maps, talk about what you've done at the hearing from the schools, any of those aspects that really made an impression on you, let us know and we'll help do that. But I think it would be great for each of you to have a part to the legislature to talk about some of the stuff you're doing.
And I think in the meantime, we will be working on putting together a presentation package. So maybe, may well be that you tell us something and we go, oh, we've already got some slides. Here's that piece or something of that nature. So it's not like they're going to be sitting back waiting for us to give them.
We're moving forward. And if you don't come up with something, you might get a sign and you might be doing the statistical analysis part. So I'm just telling you, be careful.
You don't want that. No, you don't
It's
want
coming.
that.
You want to ask me?
It's coming.
Nobody wants that.
So we'll want to have that part of it. Now, we're also going to include some of the staff to talk about some things they have done as well. And then the last part is we're making some revisions on the draft of the report. I hope to get it to all of you tomorrow afternoon. One of the other things we're going to do is we're going to send you a written, hopefully, I believe it'll be tomorrow afternoon. We finished the maps today or tomorrow by noon, is a description of each district of each map. I want you to look at it and then fix it. And then we'll add that to the report. And Commissioner Baker is going to call it a smart district because we're going to add it later. But we're going to add this information to the districts. Plural to each of the districts.
All 369 districts.
Who knows that?
We're,
All smart.
Commissioner Thorne and I are talking about meeting at noon tomorrow. Working now on four maps. So we get the information then.
No, just come in, we'll give it to you.
So did you say a meeting to describe our maps with media? Is that on Tuesday or Wednesday?
Initially, I was thinking Wednesday, but I'm thinking Tuesday now. And I'm asking you if you are available to come. We're going to announce that, but in fact, Julianne's just waiting to push the send button. And so if you guys are good with tomorrow at 4, we'll send the send button.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Well, Ally will be working at 4 tomorrow.
We have 11 and 4.
Noon.
Oh, noon and 4. All right.
Assuming Sardine Canyon's been plowed out.
I do not want you getting
Oh,
speeding
Lord.
tickets.
Is it gonna snow?
We should be
Famous
so
last words.
We should be so lucky.
I know.
Any questions about what we just went over? Is everybody feeling fairly comfortable with that or? Okay. Yeah, it'll be good to tell the press to sit down and start trying to do their own maps, so. And we'll plan a meeting after our presentation to the legislature where you can hear Moon's complete presentation.
And I thought at one point you also wanted lessons learned for the next commission.
Okay, that's
What
going
we
to
do differently.
That's going to be a week from now. We're going to take a little bit of a siesta, then we're going to be interviewing you and asking you what we did right and wrong.
This is the siesta while we're fixing all the maps?
No, next week's the siesta, after the 1st.
Suggestion, perhaps perhaps giving the press a heads up. I think they may be inclined or wanting to discuss some of the political implications of some of the maps and explaining to them that the commissioners are not wanting or willing to hear that or discuss those aspects of the map. Just this last week, we want to keep vigilant and not have any taint of any possibility. So is that something maybe you could talk to the press about to get them on notice that?
But they don't
the
necessarily follow
commissioners-
those rules. So our answers would just have to be, we didn't consider any political data.
If you just focus on
We
your
don't want to hear
criteria.
any now. That if
Yeah,
they say,
yeah.
well, this is what this map does, we just need to really be careful with that as we're making some final.
We'll make sure that, we'll try to help communicate that. I think if you stick with the criteria, the things you used to draw the map, the things you heard from people, that is compelling. That is rock solid. So I think that's really the great message.
Do you want the notes, the maps and stuff dumped in your office, or what should we do with
Hang on
it?
to it,
Wait for the subpoena? I'm gonna leave them right here.
Right there.
You do it what you want.
Okay. Start your thoughts and we'll work with it. This has been as transparent as you can get. I mean, we got video coverage people can pull up and watch. They don't even need a grandma. Just go watch it. Please.
I just said that as we go to the legislature and present, we are an advisory commission. And I really hope we put that forward, that we are advising, we are encouraging, we are saying, look, legislature, this is what we unanimously are putting forward this plan. We're not salesmen. I don't want us to come across as salesmen. Pretty please take our maps. I really hope that we come across united in saying we are advising you guys to adopt these maps.
Any other comments?
Oh, yeah, we didn't ask for this job.
That is true. Yeah, I've had people several times ask, well, how did you get this? And I'm like, I'm not sure who I offended. So, but it has been a real joy to work with all of you. This has been just a pleasure. You've been terrific colleagues. So thank you. This is not farewell. Just to be clear, we've still got some work to do, but we've got clear marching orders. So with that, is there public comment? Oh, was there any public comment? Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
I mean, came during our meeting time, so yes. It's by Sarah Anderson. It said, for voting districts, Salt Lake County and Park City should be kept together as much as possible. It is not right for the biggest taxpayers and population area in the same state to have so little power because we're divided among rural and more conservative communities. Thank you.
and we'll call that good on the public comment. So is there a motion to adjourn? All right, this